Hello, hello. I'm currently typing the today command. We have a lot to talk about. All right, yeah. So job hunt has mostly come to a close, and we got both jobs. Now it's make a decision about where to work. Today's stream is about celebrating and figuring out the next steps. There are a couple of weeks. There will, probably be a couple of weeks before the job actually starts. So There we go. Okay, yeah. Anyway, hey Pratik and hey Motion. Thank you very much. I think that oh man, when I look at the process that this all was, I think it started June 26th. Again, I don't have that exact date anymore because I can only look back at my VODs as far as you guys can. And I'm pretty sure June 26th was the first one. But anyway, it was late June for sure. I don't know when exactly that I had the first interview prep stream. And then it was yesterday, which was August 26th, that I got the results. Now, granted, a lot of this part of the process was not anything I could have sped up. I wrote in the document when the interviews happened. Where were they? Oh, no, I didn't have it in the document. I used to have it in the document. Anyway, it was like the 14th and the 17th. Yeah. So, in my opinion, this process was moderately long, and now it's done. I don't have to worry about that, and now it's all about figuring out the next steps. It seems like my kid got the job. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. And I really also appreciate you guys joining me for the whole process because I split it into three parts. There's coding, there's system design, and there's behavioral questions. And it's not like I'm the one doing this, really. This is what companies do. But I think I was helped for every one of those parts by people in the stream. And yeah, that's just amazing. I mean, this 2015 to 2020, I'm going to remember as like the startup days. And what I kind of hope to remember it as is like, in parentheses, part one here. I'm hoping there's going to be a part two sometime. But my main focus for the next few years will probably be full-time work for whatever company I pick. And if I can do something on the side, that it stays as a side thing for at least some time. So maybe at 2024 or something, I'm like, hey, okay, time to turn the side thing into the main gig. That I'd be fine with, but I'm not going to start doing that after like 2 months. So when I say part of today is figuring out the next steps, I think that it's the stream or YouTube or Adam Learns or really any of these things. Is there blogging? Is there, I don't know. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. I want to talk with you guys about this stuff. Thanks, Lazy Guru. Once a week stream at least. I was thinking about doing this. So this is something that I thought of here, which was I stream on Twitch. I think it's nice for me for a lot of reasons, and I guess you guys like it too. What I was thinking though is that maybe what might be nicer for you guys would be YouTube content. I'm not actually sure though. That might actually be worse for me. But what I was thinking about is when I produce any video on Twitch, I hit start stream, I talk for a while, I code for a while, and then I'm done. And then the view count on the video afterward hits like 30, 100. It's not a lot of views or anything. And so that content, it's not like I care about the view count after the video, but what I'm saying is moving forward, that content doesn't really live for very long. And I mean, I could just show you the numbers, I guess, instead of talking about them. But if we look at any of these past ones, the view counts are this third column here. And you can see like this one's close to 200, and that's at the high end of these things. But on YouTube, if these were going to have value for people, they'd probably reach more people and they could be edited videos or something. I still don't know what's the content necessarily. What are you doing? Have you done an interview where the company knew you from the stream? I have, but not the last two that I had done. Because a lot of people had actually reached out to me through the stream saying, "Hey, we're hiring. Do you want to do an interview or something?" So yeah, I had done a couple of those. Those weren't really interviews so much though. Those were mostly like, "Look, I already know how you work because I've seen the stream. So does this sound appealing to you?" But thank you, everyone. Yeah, where though? So the where that I was talking about, Amazon and Google are the companies that had gotten back to me. I mean, there's the today command talks about this a little bit more, not too much. And so haven't actually chosen where yet. and I have to do that over the next like couple weeks. I think probably within the next week and a half. The Twitch thing you have is yours. So yeah, there are kind of two parts of this. One is content, and the other is location or medium. Okay, wait, what happened? Check the today command, please. Do any of these jobs require relocation? No, although that's something I had to make sure I ask about. Ask about jobs. Yeah, because I know that the Amazon job would. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter the specifics. Almost every please, Burak, do check the today command. Almost every job in the entire US right now for tech is working remotely. And so the location isn't going to probably matter this year at all, but next year it almost certainly will. Yeah. Oh, don't know what either of them are. Oh, let me see. They should be in there. Because if so, I definitely messed up. Let me find out. Oh yeah. Hey, sorry about that. Google plus Amazon. Yeah, I had that written there originally. I will give you a point for pointing that out. Apologies. Yeah, yeah. Do you want to share what position or role you'd have? So the positions at both of these places is just developer jobs. At Amazon, it would be, I believe, the workspaces team. And the way that Google does things is they do a team matching phase. So I don't know what team it would be. And I also I don't totally know the particulars of this process. There's some informational meetings you have and you pick a team and that's about it. And this is all public. People know about team matching at Google. At Amazon, at Microsoft, you get hired for a role typically and not like the whole company and then you figure it out. And so by the way, this is standard. It's not like they're doing something special for me. This is just how it works there. That's why I was saying this is public. Which one am I going to pick? I need to know more about what the Google roles are. I mean, honestly, I am leaning toward Google, but I don't actually know the teams yet. So this will start probably next week. Yeah. And thanks, Scrabble. Thanks everybody, really. So as far as as far as anything else, I mean, I'm probably going to be happy to share once I know what's actually going to happen here. Thank you, Lide. So like I said, there are a couple things I want to figure out for sure. So what happens with the internet facing content that I'm doing? And I want to figure out like what kind of content and then what location or medium. And then also kind of what happens with Adam Learns. So I talked to the guy who referred me at Google. He said moonlighting is fine as long as it's not in direct competition with Google or that it's not, some company secrets that you're leaking. I don't think either of those would be a problem. I mean, when I think about what is Adam Learns doing, I think it's just random tech courses. So none of these things would be actually this would probably help Google. Firebase course. But yeah, I don't think any of those would be a problem. And I could always probably run it by somebody. And then the other stuff I'm doing, like streaming on Twitch, I pretty much cut out all my revenue for that. So I think even if it were to be a problem, because Twitch is a competitor of YouTube, that I could just change my contract and just stream on YouTube or something. What parts of your studying do you feel mattered the most, and which parts were waste? So that part should be in here. That's these 3 bullet points, and I'll just leave that on the screen for right now. I definitely think system design was really, really good to study. I think the coding was a little bit worse. Thanks, Lifebeard. Get on the YouTube team. They can manipulate the algorithm. Yeah, so I'm not going to be streaming a lot anymore. Not anymore. I mean, the next couple weeks I still have pretty much wide open. I'm going to have meetings here and there, but it's not like I'll be officially employed at either company for that time. And even after that, I'm not totally sure when I'd start. Like, let's say the team matching at Google takes a whole week and I say, all right, I picked a team and it's the 4th. I kind of doubt they'll say, okay, start on Monday. Probably be like, no, you guys can't see the calendar, but it doesn't really matter. The dates are the same everywhere. They might say start on the 14th or something. I'm not in any rush. There's no pressure one way or the other, pretty much. Thanks, Ember. And thank you, Fletcher. Could I share salary? Salary, I won't be sharing. I don't think that's a good idea for me to do. And I'll say this ahead of time with not knowing my salary. So there's a site called levels.fyi. And one of the things that this does is view salaries. There's a salaries button. So let's say I was getting hired at Microsoft level 63 or something like that. Like they have numbers here for approximates. I'm not going to say these numbers. I already talked to my wife about this. I don't think it's a good idea. and I don't know them yet, and I don't even know which company I'm going to be working for. So there's nothing to share right now. But I'm telling you in advance, I'm not going to be sharing those numbers. Thank you, Street Maniac. Is it in general? Is it YouTube? So yeah, let me say this. Um, Google does a team matching phase, but Amazon would be specifically on the workspaces team, AWS workspaces. That is this. There. There we go. Which company? I don't know which company it's going to be yet. Yeah. And how many interviews did I do with those two companies? So Amazon did a technical assessment and then the on-site interview, and Google, it was the on-site interview. Now I say on-site because that's what everybody says, but it's not on-site. it's it's a virtual interview right now. Nobody's going to the office, at least not in my state. And so these for both companies, for Microsoft, it's the typical like 5 interviews. You spend about 5 hours. And again, I can only share what's already public about this stuff. If you said, hey, what were the contents of those interviews? I'm not allowed to share that. But these things you could look online, you can read tons of stuff about what both companies are doing. Talking about salaries online is always a bad idea. Yeah, I think it's a bad idea on something like Twitch. I think if we had a small Discord community of like 20 people and I was like, hey, I got a job for blank, that's probably not as bad of an idea. But yeah, I'm not going to be sharing that. And I think it's important to note that at any big company, there is a culture that exists across the whole company, but then different teams will have a different subculture sometimes. So it's possible that the team you work for at a relaxed company could be super high paced. And it's possible that when you work at a super high paced company, it could be very slow or relaxed. Yeah, what Bat said. Yeah. Was it hard, the interview process? So I think this is sort of like, let's say you get hired as an entry level developer and it turns out that your skill level is much higher at pretty much any company. Like they'll just give you more work usually. So an interview is kind of that same way in that it's a little bit elastic. If they say, okay, yeah, you know this coding question, then they'll ask more questions. And they'll eventually get to something that they feel like, okay, cool, I'm testing the knowledge to figure out where this person's limits are. Same thing with system design. Behavioral questions, I don't think really have that. They could talk about your experience in a different way, but there's your experience in history. Whereas your coding and your system design stuff is what you'll be doing for the company. So yeah, I think it was a hard process, but I think that yeah. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. Unless you have a more specific question, I can definitely answer that. What was that salary website? That was levels.fyi. Yeah. New AWS advocate on it, streaming on AWS channel. I don't know. Can I share if I use G Docs? I don't know if I can. I don't know if that's public or not. It probably is, but I'm not gonna. I just won't share. And what companies I manage to land on? So Google and Amazon. I should probably just put that in the TLDR because that's probably gonna be a pretty common question. Got the jobs at Google and Amazon. Okay, there we go. So I don't actually know the salaries yet. This process has been a tiny bit weird, but I'm not going to go into the details about why. But yeah, I don't have the numbers yet. And why is it a bad idea to share salary? Not that I'm trying to pressure you, just curious about your reasoning. So I think there are a bunch of reasons why this might be bad. Um, and I guess maybe a better way to ask this question would be, what would be the good outcome or a good outcome of sharing salary? And so I think there are very few good outcomes of sharing it with the internet. One of them is just it satisfies people's curiosity, and that's about it, right? Because I probably don't live in the same place as 99.9% of you. I know there are a couple of people who've been to the stream who are like, oh, I live near you or something like that. But in general, it's not going to be the same location, probably not going to be the same companies. For most of you, it's not in the same country. So it's not like it's going to help for comparison's sake. It's really just kind of curiosity. So I don't think there's too much good that can come out of it. That's kind of how I look at it. Which one was the toughest to go through? I think they just have different styles. So it's sort of hard to answer that question. Amazon's was a more protracted experience. So, well, I don't know. It's hard to say which one's tougher. Just because that one was longer, I guess doesn't make it tougher. And thanks, Ultramar. Is the wife happy now? So she said that the anxiety of my job hunt was affecting her more than it was affecting me. Because, yeah, I originally wanted to apply to like very few companies. I didn't want to waste anybody's time. And she's like, no, you should apply to more. So I thought, oh, good. Now you'll be able to sleep better. And turns out she had a hard time sleeping last night. And I said, aha, so it's just anxiety now. But yeah, she's definitely happy. She was very, very excited. We went and celebrated last night. We got sushi. I think she took a picture of. No, we didn't. We didn't get a picture of that. Let me see. Do I have anything to share? I have a picture. I have this picture from yesterday. That's not really. It's not really the sushi, I guess. Add voting option. Okay. Imagine. I've seen like chat interacts with the streamer to pick things for a game, but imagine they pick a career path. Like you went into this expecting. I have a general idea for range, yes. But yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be sharing this. And what would be my deciding factors? I have a lot of, okay, so I shared a lot of notes on this whole process. So, first of all, anyone who is interviewing or looking to interview, if you type the notes command, and I'll just type the link on screen, it's just notes.adamlearns.com. These are all totally free. I won't even know that you've gone to it. And I have all my engineering interview prep and then system design prep stuff that I did here. But anyway, at the bottom of the engineering interview prep, I have a lot of questions. And these questions at the top are questions. Oh, wait. And also these. These are questions I generally find important. So I think these are the ones that are pretty important. Not necessarily for company in this case, but for team. So I'd probably ask things like, hey, what's it like? What's an average day on this team like? What's an average month? What's an average performance cycle? How do you like your coworkers? What's the seniority of the team? What tech do you work with? What's your testing methodology? I'd ask a lot of questions around that and try to narrow it down based on how that conversation goes. And then during that conversation, other things would come up that I wouldn't be able to predict that I'd like to ask about too. So sometimes you ask someone like, "Hey, how'd you end up on this team?" And they're like, "Well, I worked for 5 years here and 4 years here, and then I've been here for only 6 months, but I love it." And it's like, well, what made you love it? And what might apply to me from that? Hey, noob. Congrats. Yeah, thank you, Klaska. And what job do I get? Check the today command. And thanks for running. Since everything's remote, did you confirm that they would stay that way? So these companies have been public with when they will force people back to work pretty much. Google, I think, has said like mid 2021. I do not know this. I did not hear this at all from Google. I heard this from other random people talking online. And Amazon is also sometime in 2021. I think, just for the record, I think Microsoft is also sometime in 2021. Basically, no company wants to send people back to work this year and be one of the companies that hits the news and they say like COVID cases hit 14 at this company, and that'd be terrible. It'd be terrible for more reasons than just news, by the way. But I think this is why companies are looking at it. And so all of these companies are going to be remote until, yeah, probably 2021. So to that end, location sort of wouldn't even matter for the first year, but I still was looking at places that are around me. Time so much on the botland bots. Yeah. So I do want to talk about this. I want to figure out what am I going to do as far as streaming or YouTube content or just anything, side hobbies. Should I even stream? Should I just play it by ear? Honestly, the best conclusion with hardly any thinking is play it by ear. I don't think I can commit to anything, but still, I'd like to have some idea. And think. And so, how tall am I? I actually haven't shared that. There is a height command, but it tells you nothing. Will I continue to stream? I will probably continue to stream in a very, very tiny capacity. So I was thinking that the schedule I might be able to commit to, if anything, would be something like 2 or 3 hours a week. So very, very small compared to what I've been doing. And in return, in exchange, sort of, what I'd try to do is set it to a certain time so that at least it would be predictable. But what I was thinking about is why even bother doing a live stream if that's going to be the case? why don't I just totally do it at my leisure and just point everyone at YouTube? So what I'm saying for now is if you're interested in ever watching more streams or videos or something, and you want more news, definitely do join Discord. That has more, that'll have more information about this. Yeah, what'll be the process? Asking a bunch of questions, figuring out. I mean, at some point, I might also compare offers. I might also compare locations. Amazon is a set location, but Google has a few. So that might matter too. Thank you, Cubic. I appreciate it. Hey, Luculus. You on AWS channel. Who knows? I hate Frag Zero, and thank you. The mood's really changed. Well, it went from okay. So part of what I was doing the last couple of streams, I have honestly been interested in learning Blender, and so that's what we did for the last 3 streams. But the big reason why I chose Blender is because it could fit into a day, and we say, okay, cool, then we're done, or it could fit into 4 weeks. And all I knew was we're going to have some amount of time, and I don't know how long it'll be, because up until I found out yesterday at around like 3:30. And I didn't know, okay, well, what if I don't like these things and I want to go look for other jobs? And it's possible I still don't like them, you know? I I might say for whatever reason I don't want to work at either of these companies. But I'm pretty sure that won't happen now. And as of like 3-4 days ago, I did not know that. So I don't know what's gonna happen, but it did lift a big weight off of my shoulders to know at least that I'm probably not going back to that process. How'd you feel about their interview approach of having interviewers act like robots? It's a very leading question. I think this is something I've talked about pretty extensively over the last couple of months, both on stream and with just my friends, about does this interview process work? And my hunch is still no, but that something different or better is very hard to implement. And yeah, so I think it'll be a lot of time before we see these interviews change up. They usually answer all of that. If you're talking about I know I'm delayed on chat right now. I'm like 5 minutes behind. But if you're talking about these questions, it's all up to the people answering the questions. You'll get some people who try to put a spin on it. You'll get some people who just honestly ask. I really like this question. What's your favorite or what's your least favorite thing about working there? Because if you ask enough people on the team and they all say, hey, my least favorite thing is this part of it, then you can be reasonably certain that it's actually that part of it and that, 4 or 5 people didn't all coordinate on some random question ahead of time. But if they all say random things like, oh, well, I can't really think of something, it's pretty good, then you're like, all right, they're probably hiding an answer. Most people, I think, don't have those rose tinted glasses with their own job and can recognize that there are some flaws anywhere you work. You usually get more salary with this trick. If your TC is higher for Google compared to Amazon, they go negotiate with Amazon so they match it. I probably won't talk about what I heard about negotiation on this stream. So for now, I'll just write this down and say thank you. Thank you, What Project. I don't see the engineering prep. Where's the link for that? So it's all the notes command. I'll show you how this works. So if you go to notes.adamlearns.com, it'll bring you to a OneDrive, this link. Like I said, I have no clue that you've even gone to this. There's no tracking for me or anything. And then click, I believe in MISC. Yeah, in MISC and then engineering interview prep. And so here's all of the notes that I had taken. This one is mostly for technical prep, or coding prep, I should say. And then system design is obviously for system design. I think these notes on system design are very good. This is what I was using to study. I mean, these are also the ones I wrote. But most importantly, if you don't want stuff that I wrote, I try to keep resource links for almost everything. So you'll see there are lots of little bits of highlighted text here, reference links to things, reference this table, whatever. So they're hopefully good for searching through and finding more information if you need it. I have not heard neither the companies nor I have said anything about salary yet. So those conversations have yet to happen, and I probably won't share too much about how that process goes. So even about like, did I negotiate or how did I negotiate or how much it ended up being, I probably won't share that. Yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of places are saying at least until blank, and this is what happened even earlier this year. I think most companies said something like, okay, well, yeah, we'll come back in April. And obviously that didn't happen. And then they're like, all right, let's push it off a couple months now, maybe June, July. And yeah, now most companies that I've seen around here are like, well, unless there's some like very specialized hardware you're using in the office, you're going to stay home until we tell you can go. Yeah, I'll be able to work from home for a bit. Yeah. And like I said, this is what everybody's doing, whether they like it or not. And I did talk to some people at these companies, and I asked like, "Hey, what's it been like?" And some people say it's been great. I don't have the commute, so I can focus more on work and then just be home and ready and done when I'm finished. And some people said the opposite. They're like, "Look, this is actually worse for me. I can't meet my coworkers." So I do think there are pros and cons. I have never started a job this way, a job that was supposed to be in person, but that I did remote for some amount of time. And so I don't know what it's like for me. For the last 5 years, I worked remote and then I was just streaming from my desk the whole time. But that's very different from being in a big company and working remote. Do you save those notes or just help you sort them out? Yeah, I do this just as kind of a mental mapping thing. The other thing I find that helps is if I ever want to go back to some information I said, because that happens a lot in the stream. Someone will bring up a topic, and then 2 minutes later, someone else will bring up that same topic. And the other thing I find that helps with is if you're just dropping in, and you're like, wait, what's the context that Adam's talking about here? Usually you can scroll up, or not scroll up, but usually you can see higher up on the screen what I'm talking about. You feel you're overprepared? No, I don't. I don't think the coding interviews actually went all that well at these companies. And that's the thing I prepared for the most. I talk more about the preparation in this day command in that document, but here's kind of what I'd said. Yeah, the prep for like more than 80 hours, I still feel like that ended up being a weak spot. I feel like the mock interviews were great. System design stuff was great. Yeah. Then you can continue to interact in Discord. I think so. I think that's easy enough. Despite that the Discord has a lot of people, there aren't really that many active people. So the Discord doesn't usually take me more than, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes to respond to per day. And there are some channels you can't see that also have some content that I have to respond to sometimes. What's the title that you got? I don't know what the titles are at these places, so I don't I don't know how to answer that. But the responsibilities, I have to talk to both companies about this, and that's going to happen in the next week. Will I work 100% or less? It'll be a full time job, yeah. So the 5 days, 8 hours. And yeah, thank you, Quando. Thank you, Jacko. Thank you, everybody. I don't look at it as I owe you guys or anything like that, but I really like what's happened over the last 5 years. I also know for sure that no matter what I do, there's no way it will be at the level that I've done for the last 5 years because doing anything at that level takes a lot of time and a lot of energy. And I will likely have the remnants of time and energy from the full time job. So I think it's probably natural for some people to go from, let's say they were on YouTube and they're making videos twice a week to being like, man, I still want to hit that schedule. I don't want to do that. I know for sure that I still want to be involved in some capacity, but I don't know what, and I'll need to figure that out. And I'm very open to the idea that the stream or YouTube or anything like that is not a good idea and that I shouldn't do it. So there are a lot of things that I wanted to wrap up, not for the stream today or anything, but I wanted to write a blog post on interviewing and I wanted to write a blog post about just what it was like at a startup for the last 5 years. I take a copious amount of notes, as most of you guys have seen. And something you haven't seen necessarily, because these are usually in the private notebooks, I try to make a note called overall learnings on blank, where whatever that is. So I've got one on Botland, I've got one on Twitch, I've got one on Adam Learns, and I want to consolidate some of these things into a blog post. And yeah, so there's some of that wrap up. I also want to migrate Botland to cheaper hosting. I wanted to keep it up just for the job search, but it's costing quite a lot of money on AWS. And I could even keep it on AWS and just make it cheaper, but I'm probably going to migrate it completely, and that'll take some time too. I might not do that on stream. I probably won't. Do everything I work on Potland too. I get the job, I work for a day, and I'm like, all right, that was enough time back at a big company. Thank you, first of all. And working on Botland 2, I've been joking, but I've been working on Botland 3. So that it's not a joke that I'm working on it, but it's a joke that I skipped Botland 2. But Botland 3 is an RPG. I did not take the G. It's an RPG, unlike Botland 1, which was a strategy game. So maybe you'll see something about this in the future. Who knows? No. Both of the jobs are going to be in the Washington area. I will not be moving to California or anything. What I was trying to say about Google is that they have many locations in Washington, and they're all pretty close. So without drawing an accurate map of where I live and where everything is, imagine that if this is the U.S. So like this part is Washington, and if we were to just like zoom in and draw some dots here, it's like, this is kind of what I'm talking about. They're that far apart, as opposed to being something like there's one here and there's one here. Oh, I got to get rid of that language command. Adam hasn't set this, hasn't specified the language. So just point out that he needs to update this if you see him coding. Yeah. Sorry, still scrolling down on chat. I'm like 9 minutes behind now. Let me do this. Hop over and chat with your old buddy. Yeah, so Noob, hopefully I answered you after that. Did you end up getting that? Okay, so you did get the link. And how can you download the materials? I don't actually have an answer for that. I don't know how you do that. So there might be a way you might have to rely on your browser's print feature and print to a PDF driver. I'm not actually sure what OneNote supports for that. Did the interviewers reflect on your teaching or streaming as part of the interview process? Both companies do things very differently. I would say Google is kind of like almost hands off with your past, whereas Amazon I think cares a lot more about your past. And so they kind of talked about it a little bit, but I don't know. It wasn't like a major part. A lot of what makes the streaming appealing from an interview perspective is if you've already watched my work. But if you haven't watched my work, then it's not going to be appealing for people to go be like, all right, let me watch 2 hours of this guy do something. Because that's sort of what the interview is for. So if it just so happened that any of them had already seen the stream, that would have been, I guess, very different. How long have I been coding professionally? I haven't shared the exact amount, but I do have this command, which kind of answers the question. Maybe I already answered, but do you know what team you'd be working on? I only know at Amazon it'd be the workspaces team if I were to work there. You say what products you'd be working on, but at Google, yeah, I don't. All I know is that the products are almost certainly only going to be whatever the Washington State offices work on, which, from what I understand, is not everything. So I don't know what that delineation is though. So let's say like Android. Is Android in Washington? I don't even know. But if it were, then that would be a possibility. What position did you apply for? What did you be working on in each of the jobs? Yeah, so developer for both of these. Amazon, like I just said, is the workspaces team. Google, I don't know yet. Yeah. And thank you, Nomad. I appreciate it. And thank you too, Artemir. Hey, Goose. Thanks, NSO. Hope it's the best fit as far as goes. Thank you, Jupiter. Yeah, this is really what I'm looking for right now. Is what's the best move for me as an engineer and for me to grow the skills that I want to grow. So I mentioned this already, but the last 5 years have been all on Twitch, and it's been Botland and it's been Adam Learns. And for this was like what 4.5 years or something, pretty close. And then this was the last like half year, kind of, not even really, maybe it was like a quarter. And so what went wrong in Botland, I tried to address in Adam Learns, but then there were still some things that went wrong in Adam Learns. And so one of the biggest things I think I need to work on is kind of marketing, PR, promotion, all that sorts of skills. And then I think there's some amount of like management level skills that would be pretty helpful. And then I think to some extent product design. Because from an engineering perspective, I think the coding, I think the system design, I think even kind of code design to some extent, testing, a lot of these skills, I feel like they're there, and then I can still improve them. So I kind of want to run this whole gamut and figure out how can I get better as an engineer and overall like product minded person. And that way, whatever I do in the future that I might want to pursue, I'll hopefully have more success at. And yeah, Marco, no problem. I really hope they help for people. I've heard some feedback on some of these notes and it's been decent, but remember that these are notes that I took, so they're things that I found important and they're notes that I thought were worth remembering. Sorry, I just said the same thing twice. But the system design ones I think are actually pretty good because a lot of this was me following through other people's resources and then sort of compiling those, looking at different sources, getting some real world advice in here too. It's really good. Thank you, Trollcraft. How long do you have before you need to accept? I don't actually have an offer. So at some point, and when I say an offer here, I mean they're going to say something like, "All right, we'll give you, X dollars of this and Y dollars of this and Z dollars of this and vacation time and perks and whatever else, right?" And then there's just a yes or no, like, do you accept? I have not gotten to this point where they've even they've put any of these numbers or things in front of me, and that'll be happening in the next week or so. So how long would I have to accept? I don't know how long companies typically give you for this. I imagine it's on the order of 1 to 2 weeks, maybe sometimes even less than a week. So I'm pretty certain that within the next couple weeks, I'll have found out about what's going to happen. Thank you, Stephen. And why did you decide to start working again? So just to be clear, and we're probably on the same page here, but the last 5 years I was doing work. When I say I was working on Botland and Adam Learns, those were very involved endeavors. And so starting to work again at a big company was mostly money driven. And when I say that, that probably gives out the wrong impression. I didn't make a lot of money with these. And so while I was learning a ton, while I really liked the work, I just can't keep doing that the rest of my life unless I make that money. And that's where I was saying one of the things I kind of failed at quite a lot is sort of the marketing and PR aspect. It's very tough for me to promote myself. And a lot of times I just like giving an honest pitch of like, look, here's what I think the value of this is. You might like it, you might not like it. It wasn't very sugar coated language or anything. Hope the notes will be available forever. I think the only reason I'd take them down is if I ever made them part of a paid course. So if there's anything you do want, I guess, like I said, try to find some way to download it. That way, if it does become part of a paid course, I guess you'd already have it. Yeah, so this is something my wife was talking about. She said, "Hey, look, you've been doing courses on Adam Learns. Why don't you make like an interview prep course?" And I thought, I think there are already a lot of those out there, and I don't know if I have anything more to provide. And the other thing that's tough too is unless you're kind of a serial interviewer, how do you know that, oh, okay, you got a job at 5 different big companies? How do you know that what you did is what worked? And it's not just survivorship bias. Will these be available 4 years when you start applying after university? Probably, at least to some extent. Gonna need a salary command? Yeah, probably. Yep, this is a pretty safe guess. I should make $1 a year. Yep. Hey, Shax. Thank you. Yeah, no sub button. Yeah, I turned off subs on July 24th. Now that I'm not going to be streaming on Twitch full time, and actually even as of July, I knew I'd be closing up eventually. I don't want people to subscribe and yeah. So if you want to spend money on Twitch, give it to another streamer. It's got to be more than $700. Otherwise, we would have had Botland 3. Oh, I see what you're saying. At one of these companies. Hey, Chevy. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are pros and cons, and I think not having a commute, being able to set your own schedule, I think can also be helpful. I guess that can be a con in itself. But yeah, not being able to interact with your coworkers face to face, I think could be really tough. Or I guess you can still interact online. You can still have video, but some people just don't have a network connection that's good enough. There are times when I'm streaming and not all my frames make it to you guys. That's probably pretty frustrating if you're trying to work with someone and you can't hear them half the time. Thank you, Kolokov. Just want to ask, is there a way to ask your question privately? I can, for example, whisper. Not sure if you read those. Yeah, you can send me a message on Discord. I've got my whispers are just wide open, and I've got my, well, what's it called, discriminator on there. It's Adam135313531. Hate people in suburban surroundings as well. Prefer quality company. What? Hate people in suburban surroundings. Are you just saying you prefer living in a city? I think that's fair. That's fine. Not going into specifics. Did you get any feedback along the way of how you did on technical stuff? No, not really. And this is where I think mock interviews are really important because you either do well and you know that you did well, or you don't do well and you get feedback on how exactly you can improve. And so the mock interviews that I did on stream, which unfortunately aren't easily compiled, I do believe, let me take a look at this. If I just go to YouTube and I click playlist, let me mute this even though they're my own videos. Yeah, interview prep. Okay, so the playlist of 34 videos is on here, and their mock interviews are labeled on here, so that's good. So those taught me some specific things about how I work and how I should be working for interviews. I think a lot of this is just knowing and understanding the process. So I got feedback from that, but not really from the full interviews. During coding prep, how often were you unable to solve the problem? Struggling quite a bit with problems I've never seen before and tend to need to look at the answer. I'd say it was a decent amount. I think there are a lot of times when you're doing like a leak code style problem, there are a lot of times where there's like a good algorithm and then a better algorithm and a best algorithm. And if you're in an interview, the interviewer will be like, okay, cool, you came up with a good one. Now let's focus on the better one. But in leak code, no one's there to tell you, hey, this isn't the best one. And so you don't even necessarily know, is this the final answer? And there are some questions on leak code that the best answer is brute force. And to me, that always seemed like, wait, what? When are you ever going to get a question in an interview where the answer is brute force? So I just keep looking and looking and looking, and I wouldn't find anything, not realizing that was the best algorithm. And yeah, so I think that you should notice some improvement. If you haven't seen this document, I suggest just at least kind of skimming it. It's about 60 pages, but I think it's really, really good. It's called You Suck at the Coding Interview, and it kind of talks about the level of fluency that some people get is pretty ridiculous for these because they'll just spend, hundreds of hours working on this, just doing tons of problems. Thank you, Robin. Yeah. Doing remote work in my previous job, but I recently started working remotely full time. Third week and super excited. Nice. Congrats. Yeah. And have I tried Notion? No. One of the things I've talked about with OneNote is that I'm very invested in it now, so that switching would be difficult. The last time I switched note taking software was, I think, like 2012 when I switched from Evernote. And even that was very annoying. There was no like migrate data from this program button. So I had to just copy paste every note. I lost a bunch of formatting in the process. I lost any whatever Evernote specific features I might have been using. I don't even know if there were any. And so now OneNote, there are a lot of things that I do. I kind of talked about how you can right click anything and go down to copy link to paragraph. These links, if I just copy paste a note into Notion, let's say, these links aren't going to work anymore. Or if they do, they're going to link to OneDrive, which won't be my updated notes. So yeah, switching's not easy. I don't have much of a reason to switch either, but that's why I'm not really trying anything new. Was it LC Medium? I'm not sharing anything about what happened in the interview. Sorry, there's NDAs for that. Hey, Tom. I'm doing well. Yeah. And thank you to Cheese Weasel. How can you download materials? Yeah. Okay. I talked about this. I don't know actually how to do that. Have you considered leveraging the offer to negotiate? Yeah, this is something else. I'm sorry, I'm not going to talk about. Time to use some company time for Plotland 3. So I was mentioning this earlier. I'm pretty sure neither company would care if I worked on this stuff on my own time with my own resources and without using any company secrets. And Botland 3, it existed beforehand. Actually, when I started working at Microsoft, and this was a long time ago, I think I had to say, what projects do I already have that are ongoing? I wonder if Amazon and Google do that same thing. Because if they do, I'll just list, number one, Adam Learns, and here's what it is. And number two, I'll say Botland 3, and here's what it is. And number three, a blog or something, And by saying all these things ahead of time, they'll know, okay, he already had this. And I mean, the dates will prove that too. Adam Learns is already online right now. So I guess if I add content, it's not going to be like, oh, did he steal something for this? And I wouldn't do that anyway. Blender Learning, since now Fallout 3's first person shooter RPG. I don't think I'm going to make a 3D game for some time. Then again, this is one of those things where I was kind of mentioning my next endeavor I want to make sure is going to be successful. So the way I might do it is I might say, all right, let me ramp up so that I'm doing a full-time job and a part-time job. And if that part-time job ends up turning into a better thing, then awesome. But I probably won't just jump directly back into it. Because what happened in 2015 is I just quit my job. I didn't have anything. I didn't have revenue or anything. I hadn't even started Twitch streaming. And that was fine because I had a plan. But in let's say like 2023, I want to have some better indicator that something's going to work. So right now, I've got kind of a 3-year plan, and we'll figure out how that goes. Hey, lab coding. Has to make this. Yeah, thank you, C17R, and thank you too, Balrog. Am I using assembly to code the game? No, the last thing I used assembly for was just the NES ROM. Pretty much because you have to use assembly or C, I guess. But No, what I'm going to be using is GD script most likely for Botland 3, at least for the prototype. And yeah, I hope that helped, Noob. Glad you found it. And what languages? I don't know enough to be able to answer this question. Yeah. Okay. And thank you, Neo. Hey, Physitronic. Team matches after accepting offer. It is not. At least not in my case, because I haven't accepted the offer, and team matches the next step. And thank you, Physitronic. Thank you too, Maverick. Did they give you a job description? So this is what I was saying. Amazon is the workspaces team, and there's kind of a job description, but I'm not totally sure what exactly I'd be doing. And we're gonna have a call about that sometime this week. And then at Google, it's a team matching phase. So each team has its own, probably its own technologies, its own culture, its own whatever else. And so the way that this kind of works, from what I understand, is you go talk to team A and they say, hey, here's all the stuff that we have to share. And you talk to team B, you talk to whatever else until you finally talk to all the teams you want to talk to. And then you make a decision based on that. I really like this style, by the way. One thing that I never, this never sat well with me is if I interview at the workspaces team for Amazon and I just determine like, man, actually this new job just opened. I'd kind of like to work there. And it's like, well, too bad, interview again. I think from a company's perspective, it's kind of hard to manage that because different teams might have different standards for interviewing. But it's pretty nice to be able to choose. Do I have 1020? Oh, wait. Sorry, that was not to me. We're looking to work hard and long Amazon's the way to go. That's a really nice money. Is team matching online? Team matching will be like virtual, if that's what you mean. Remember, nothing, pretty much nothing in the workplace in my state and probably most of the country is going to be in person. Now, that's not true everywhere. Hospitals, for example, are going to be in person. But for tech jobs, there's very little reason for developers in anywhere in like a 10-mile radius of where I live to go into work. Do you have a guide on how I've set it up? I have a OneNote command which might talk about it a little bit more, but in general, no. And if you have any questions, feel free to just ask me on Discord. Hey, CEO. No, I've not gotten the actual offer letters yet. And thank you. No, that was not me. And yeah, Wolf Wolf 2, I do remember you. And yeah, still have an open senior architect position. Yeah. Remember you saying you needed a strong TypeScript dev. Yep, yep, yep. Hey, Donald. Thank you. They gave you 2 days. You're saying for like an offer to accept that? Yeah, I think sometimes they try to light a fire under you, and I'm not sure how effective that is because they must lose some percentage of candidates who say I just can't do it in the 2 days, and they must have determined that that number of candidates is an acceptable loss. Am I excited? Yeah. What I felt up until now is that I had in kind of my history of 2020 here, we were doing Botland originally, then we were doing Adam Learns, then we were doing interview prep, and there was this big barrier between whatever came next. And that barrier was figuring out the job. And so interview prep, like as far as stream content goes, it was very predictable. It worked out pretty well. I did burn out a couple times during it, but largely I think it was good. And then I just kept thinking, man, there's no way that I can figure out what comes next without overcoming this barrier. And that barrier was, yeah, finding the job that I would end up with. And technically that's still not done, but there's not really any pressure now. It's really tough when you're told, hey, wait a week and then you'll find out the results. And by the way, if those results are bad, then go figure out the rest of your life. And so now I feel like I can finally approach this question mark, and that's part of what I wanted to talk about this stream is what is going to happen with the stream, what's going to happen with these things that I built. I'm very strongly considering open sourcing Botland because I feel like there's no point in having it be closed source if it's not being actively developed. But who knows how I'm going to do that exactly? That could happen in sometime in the next couple weeks. No, I think the wrong impression that I was giving off there is it's not like, if you list your motivators on a scale of 1 to 10, you might say people, you might say the job, you might say money, you might say location, you might say work-life balance. I'm not saying money is number one. I'm saying I think that was the big reason why I had to leave what I was doing. But then within jobs that I'm considering, it's not like money is number one. Also, for anyone new, I am reading all of chat and responding to everything. And so it's 9:30 for me, and I'm responding to things from 9:17. So if it seems like there's a very long delay, that's what's causing it. Have I heard of recapture or reviture? I I don't think so. I don't think I've heard of either of these. I've heard of reCAPTCHA, the CAPTCHA software. Google gave me 2 weeks to accept. Amazon gave me 3 weeks. Yeah, yeah. And any idea on the composition or size for the two teams? No, I don't know. Except for I'm pretty sure at Amazon they try to keep the team sizes like moderately small. I would say. So it's not like it's going to be some 50-person team. Then again, I think really most of the people I've talked to, their team sizes are roughly like 5 to 10. But I don't know for sure. Yeah. Serial interview. What's my formal education? I have a bachelor's degree in computer science. Hey, Heart Curious. Yeah, I miss being with your coworkers. Yeah. Die if this work from home didn't happen. Enjoy it while you can. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to enjoy it or not, but the way that I look at it is there's not a choice at first. And then I think most companies are probably going to say, at least around here, most companies are probably going to say, now you can come into the office, but you're not forced to at all. And then once they say you're forced to come in, it's probably going to be like, you could still work X days a week from home. And so I think it's going to be in stages and it'll be kind of interesting. Want to sell your stream? I got a message through Twitter saying, "Do you want to? Would you? What did they say? Would you give up your Discord server handle or something like that, or maybe your username handle?" And I thought, what? Like, uh, what are they out for here? Because as far as names go on Discord, you can just pick whatever name you want, and it can collide with someone else, and that's why you get the discriminator at the end. So they must have wanted a real account. But then I thought, you don't have any sort of clout on Discord, you know? Like if you take my account, that doesn't mean it probably just means you'd make it through spam filters or something, and that's it. It's not like you'd trick people. What kind of position? So I should probably just put this in the today command because I am kind of answering this quite a lot. Google does a team matching phase, so I don't know what product or team I would work on. There, yeah. Okay, so yeah, the today command should have that now. And thank you, Backcraft, and thank you to Journey. Yeah, yeah, I think mock interviews are really, really good. I was saying this before, but I think they should be about empowerment for you. A lot of people look at it as like, oh, why should I have to do this? But they're good for you to feel more comfortable during the interview on so many different fronts that they're worthwhile. And the other thing too is it's a way to just kind of bond with somebody else. Maybe you learn something during the process. Maybe it's just introspective for you. And then you can always return the favor and then learn what it's like to be on the other side of the interview and see how they feel. Are both of them remote? And thank you, Fury. Yeah, they're both remote for now. Thank you too, Kojin. They're both remote for now, but they won't be remote in 2021 most likely. And thank you too, Rebel. I happen to be a serial interviewer. Very bad at highlighting my strengths. I'm afraid to be seen as bragging. Eventually got better, and I'm currently at a place I really like. Nice, Avery. Yeah, I think I think that's something that I was in a public speaking club called Toastmasters a while ago, and one of the sections they have is something called table topics, where you're given a prompt, and for the next 1 to 2 minutes, you have to speak on it extemporaneously. And I remember someone sharing a topic that kind of stuck with me. He said, life has a way of reminding you about what's important. And so in this case, it's like, hey, I'm not good at highlighting my strengths. Oh, okay, I didn't work at that interview. It didn't work with that interview. And eventually, I mean, it keeps reminding you and reminding you until you're like, all right, I need to focus on this. I need to get better. And hopefully you heed those reminders before it's too late. So I think there's kind of the same thing for me. I think that when it comes to selling a product and kind of working on the right features for that, that I get a little misguided. So yeah, I want to work on that stuff too. That's what I was saying earlier though, is I want to just be a better engineer overall, work with people better, make better decisions, like write better code. Yeah, they should all be public as playlists, but the videos themselves are not public because I don't think people would want to watch these as just unedited videos on here. So any topics you don't see would be in the, I believe, the Botland VODs command. Yeah. So then there's a set of playlists on this channel. This is the channel I use for Botland, and you can see there's 835 videos for this. That is quite a lot of videos. And then there's the not really Botland playlist for anything extra. So if you ever wanted to see the, I don't know, no, none of these are all pretty much garbage, except for maybe the April Fool's videos if they're on here. But yeah, a lot of this is not worth watching. Are the VODs for the development of Add and Learn site anywhere? Yeah, those should be in that playlist I was just talking about, and I'll put the link into chat. They should be there. Is it the best alternative Evernote? Currently stuck with Evernote. I didn't like Evernote back in 2011 or 2012 for a couple of bugs that have almost certainly been fixed in the last 8 years. So is it the best alternative of Evernote? I don't know if I can say that for sure. And Evernote might itself be better, but I think popular ones today are Notion, OneNote, and there's maybe something else. Yeah, someone else had mentioned something, but I don't remember what. It's not coming to me now. I think they make you list your invention. Hang on one second. Okay, sorry, my wife was paused in the hallway playing YouTube on her phone, and I always try not to have any copyrighted content appear on the stream. So yeah, that is all my company for starting my current job. You know, at my last company, I was asking people about this, and what was funny to me is almost everybody in the general vicinity had their own company, and I just never would have guessed if we'd never had that conversation. But yeah, it's possible. I might have to do that. I will definitely have to ask. I'll actually write that down. Which Google office you get an offer at and what level? So I don't know if I ever shared the level. So I don't know if I'm going to share the level, but the office is not decided yet. Because the way that they do things for the Seattle area is that they lump a couple of different cities into Seattle. And so you kind of figure that out during the team matching phase. I had to explicitly ask for a form to disclose previous inventions. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay, yeah. Do I have to disclose previous invention? Yeah, okay. And thank you, Faceless Bard. Good luck answering awkward money questions. Yeah. They're not part-time jobs, no. What I was saying when I was mentioning full-time and part-time was that if I were to do either of these things again, that I would do it as a part-time job first, most likely, and then transition it into a full-time job. And that's assuming that I'm allowed to do that, and then I even have the capability of doing that for just an energy perspective. Yeah. Yeah, Botland 3, I haven't shown it at all, but I think it's a really fun idea, and I need to prove that it's fun before I even talk about it or develop it more. I coded something using plain assembly. Yeah, that was the NES ROM that I had done. So actually, I probably still have that on my computer. Where would I get to that? Adam Learns Project NES ROMs. I apparently called it Project 4. Yeah, you might be thinking of this. Yeah. So we can just open up something in here. I don't know. Main.asm. What is this? Oh, this is the least interesting file. Player.asm. Yeah. So it was this. Why is this not CC? Oh, I can't get syntax highlighting for it. But yeah, that's probably what you're thinking of. That was just for a week. That was it. And I've never used workspaces yet, actually, so I don't know what the experience is like. But I am curious, what was a bad experience about it for you? Oh my God, Woody, that's crazy. I've heard of some people who've got stories like this, but yeah, man. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad you learned a lot. And this is why I don't want to like totally let go of Twitch or YouTube or anything. I want to figure out something for that. But it is a debate for me of do I do it mostly for the benefit of other people or mostly for the benefit of myself? So, for example, for Botland, my motivation was mostly for the benefit of myself. I'm glad it didn't work out that way. And maybe actually that's how I can look at really anything here. Maybe I can find a way for it to just benefit both parties. But I've got to be very careful with how I spend my time because I don't want to get burned out. Yeah. Let me try to scroll through a little bit faster. Can you say what language? I don't know what language. No, sorry. Yeah. Do you have to relocate? Almost certainly no. In fact, I'll just say no. It's not even almost certainly. It would be no. Yeah, I wouldn't have to relocate. If you do how to prep for coding interview and assembly, that'll differentiate yourself from other materials. Yeah, I don't think there are going to be many takers for that. There's got to be people who want to learn it for assembly and people who are looking for a job. There's probably like 6 people in the world. Thanks, Detonated. If I may ask questions, is there an easy way to put some text at both the start and the end of another? I'm not sure what you mean by this. To put some text at both the start and the end of another. Yeah, I'm not sure what you mean. If you're talking about multiple cursors, you can just control click and put multiple cursors wherever you want and then put like some text somewhere. But maybe you're talking about an algorithm kind of question. And what are the functions? I checked the today command because I don't actually know the function for Google, and at Amazon I've got a link to it there. Better to study cybersecurity or embedded systems? I don't think my opinion should matter here. Is my real opinion, which is what do you find interesting, or where do you want a job, or what's fun? I think those are what matter more than what I think is better to study. So if you're asking me what's better to study in order to find a job, I don't have an answer for that question. I think you need to look at some statistics online to see where jobs are in your area. Where did I get a job? At Amazon and Google, yeah. Check the today command. She's been a refuge from the brain rotting media. Thank you, unknown. Thank you. And hey, Aurelio. Yeah. Okay, so I heard this. I didn't know if this was a public thing. And thank you too, Zian. What level was I offered? I haven't shared that. I don't know if that's a good idea to share. I feel like anything that kind of helps people narrow down what my salary is probably not the best thing for me to share. And hey, guys, thank you too. Glad to see you go after all these years and all the impact you had. Wish you the best. Thank you. I am gonna. I know I keep saying I'm gonna talk about this, but how it's probably gonna work is I'll eventually get to the bottom of chat. I'm now 10 minutes behind, and then we'll go back to the talking about what the next content should be and how I'll approach that. Choose Google for the free food. Well, remember, there's no free food for the next however many months, but that is a pretty nice perk, I think. And thank you, my YT. You tell us about your daily habits, what you eat, how often do you work out, time of wake up. I'm gonna treat this as a serious question, although maybe there's some sarcasm I'm missing here. Daily habits for the 5 years I was streaming was wake up at 7:40, name my alarm Botland. It's still named Botland to this day. Eating is just a big question mark. I don't think it's really worth saying that. Workouts were like 3 times per week. That has been hampered quite a bit thanks to COVID. This is actually the first week I'm going to try to commit to this again because I'd been going to the gym and then you just couldn't go to the gym anymore. It wasn't even open. And now it's open and I'm not going to the gym. I refuse to, if I'm going to go out of this universe that way by dying due to contracting a virus at a gym, that's perhaps the worst way. So I canceled my membership. And I guess those are kinds of the basic questions. I didn't really answer too much about what I eat, but that's. He eats burgers. Yeah, you see my lunch thing. If they staged a walkout protesting something, would you join them if you sympathize with their cause? I mean, maybe. I don't think this could ever happen because a walkout when everyone's working from home is basically the same as people just taking a sick day, right? Or maybe I don't know. Maybe the spirit of it is that no one's actually just doing work that day and it's not so much the symbolic aspect of waiting outside your building. But yeah, this is a big like it depends. I can't say for sure yes, you know. And thank you, Paul Stella. Thank you. And hey Richie. maybe biased, go with Google regardless. Heard a lot about Amazon engineers being overworked. I have a feeling that the way I want to pursue my career over the next few years is maybe going to involve me doing a little bit more work than I would normally do for a company. But I'm going to try to be very careful about that. I I think for me the most important thing is that I'm applying what I've learned from the last 5 years to what I'm about to do. Because if I'm not doing that, then it means I'll likely make the same mistakes. And if I'm not learning, then I feel like I'm failing in some way. Yeah. How did it go in interviewing and being asked what you did about the last 5 years? So it went well. Being asked what I did about the last 5 years, I think the only time there was really friction is when someone wanted to find out the answer to a question. They're like, okay, cool, yeah, no, I know you did this for the last 5 years, but like, what's a time when you did this at a corporate job? And it's like my corporate jobs were now 6+ years ago. If you ask me a story about them, I remember only the ones that really stand out in my head. So like one of the ones I do have an answer to is what's the time you had difficulty working with someone? Like, yeah, that was annoying enough where that stands out in my head and I can tell that story. But if you're like, hey, when's the time you improved performance on a product? It's like no clue at this point. Like, and this is one of the other things I want to learn for the next job is I want to write down, I want to kind of write like behavioral question answers and just say for each month, like, what did I do? What impact did I have? What did I learn? These sorts of things. I want to keep a journal of like, how is my job actually going? So that in no given year do I look back and think, wait, 2022, what did I do for that year? I want to actually have these answers. And maybe that's something else I should document more of. Yeah. Maybe also document the behavioral question answers for the last 5 years. Or maybe just link to what I already wrote. Yeah, something like that. Do kind of miss the lights in the background? Yeah. Yeah. And doing. She did that on purpose. I'm watching you, not YouTube. Oh, look at that. Look who came to chat. I don't know if she's still there. She's gonna be mad at me. Yeah, I'm gonna be the CTO. Yep. They'll ask you about previous inventions and letters, and you're okay, good. Yeah. Hey, I mean, if it does, if that's what it takes, that's something I'd probably be open to. But it certainly wouldn't need Stadia behind it. Yeah, like World of Warcraft full of bots. Not quite like that. It would be a single player RPG. If I gave you the elevator pitch, it would give away enough of the game where I want to wait. So I could give you more of a description, but I'm purposely holding off. Thank you, Seiki. And am I going to continue making courses? I'm going to say this for the next probably 6 months or so, I'm not going to make it any priority whatsoever. So if inspiration strikes me and I think I have to do this, this is my calling, then yeah, I would. But otherwise, I think I'm going to have to update, excuse me, I'll have to update the site to say something like, this is on hold for now. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I'll write that down. Consider updating Adam Learns to say that it's on hold for now and maybe have a link to a blog post. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I should do something like that. Thank you, Marty. Thank you, Andy. Can you speak about your interview experience of both? I can't talk too much about this because there's an NDA for both interviews. So the kinds of things I can share are like they were done virtually or they were about 5 hours, but I can't tell you too much about here's what the questions were or here's the very specific stylistic differences between them. So all I can say is it's roughly what I expected. I mean, it's like a full day of interviews. You're tired by the end of the day. Yeah. Unfortunately, I can't share too much. Very laggy. Disconnection happens a lot. I see. Yeah. And thanks, Muriel. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so Sunday only stream, that sort of thing might happen. I don't know. One of the things that's really, really tough about a stream schedule is that if I'm going to say, okay, it happens Saturday from this time to this time, I can't commit to every Saturday of the year, right? So I think it'd have to be a weekday. And if it's a weekday, then I'm working a full day at a full-time job. and then saying, all right, let me do some extra work and then still make it to work the next day. So there's no great day to do this. And if it's a floating schedule, I think it's harder to follow. That's why I think YouTube might be a better option. Just make recorded videos and just stop streaming. I don't know. Thanks, Lone. Hey, Ramu. Thank you, Oju. And JJ. Hey, Johnny, man. Make it better if you go there. Yeah, this is something that I think when it comes to working for a company, I think it's, do you believe in the product or the direction? And it doesn't necessarily need to be both. Like, do you believe in the product right now? Because you can believe in the direction and try to make it better. But I haven't used it, so I can't speak from firsthand experience. Is the difference in pay between the two big? I don't have offer letters exactly, so I can't say, and probably wouldn't share that if I had them anyway. Only bad experience I had is it was expensive, which is enough to make me not use it. Yeah, I think from a consumer perspective, some AWS services can get a bit pricey. But from a business perspective, I think it's usually pretty manageable. How'd you manage to time the interview so you're able to keep two offers on the table at the same time? I think that was just luck. Yeah, I think that was mostly just luck. I did reschedule the Google interview though, but that wasn't for trying to time the offers. So that's why I say it was luck. And thank you, Johnny, man. He's at L12. Is that even a level at Google? Or Amazon, you guys? Which level of job? I haven't shared that. Yeah, I haven't shared that. What's the secret to stay motivated to code? Sometimes I just don't feel like coding at all. On those days, is it that you've done something else? Because what I find is the secret is vacation time and lots of it. So coding is very rarely a just, oh, I'm on autopilot. The code's just coming to me. I'm just typing. It's flowing from my brain straight through to my fingers and I'm done. I think it's more like, okay, let's thoughtfully design, work through problems, make a bunch of micro decisions, and that's very draining, right? So I think in order to stay motivated to code, it's a combination of having a project you like, having tasks that are doable in the time that you allot, and having the energy. And I guess you could kind of talk about like having the resources or something. I don't think that matters too much for coding. I think if you're trying to make like a big product and you needed UX and you need assets but yeah, I think it's pretty much just these three things. So if any of those is lacking, you should maybe take a look at how you can improve that. This one's very easy, I think. Most people have a project they want to work on. So if you find that, and I'm talking about personal coding at least. If it's for your job, that's a completely different answer. I think finding a new job could be on that list, but taking vacation is a good first step. What company pays more? It all depends on levels. And that's something I haven't really talked about too much. But I mean, this is something pretty obvious, right? Like a junior salary at company X is almost always going to pay less than a senior salary at company Y. And so you'd have to compare apples to apples. And neither company is Apple. So it's, I wouldn't be able to share anyway, even if I had these. And thank you, Diabetic. Let's see. Also, hey, everybody. Tracking everything I do at work. So I can go back over it at the end of the year and say good stuff. Yeah, I think it's probably also worth saying any highlights you thought were worthwhile for any given week. And the board will tell you the task, but then maybe you worked with someone in a particular way that you want to remember too. And next job, you still have to decide on this job. I think for anyone, it's a good idea to just generally think of like, what's your 1 year plan, maybe 3, maybe 5, and like, yeah, maybe 10, just to have a general idea. Because that way, the way I see it is you are here. And this is the infinity that is time. And so you plan out like, okay, here's the 10 mark, let's say. And you say, I want to end up here. And at the 5 mark, you want to be, I don't know, here. And at the 3 mark, you want to be here. Like this path is very winding. And so it might be hard to align yourself to something. So I think the ideal way is to make sure that each step is leading to each other thing. And then it kind of works out like this. And so for me, what I'm thinking is my 3 year plan is work at whatever company I pick. My 5-year plan is kind of a question mark. My 10-year plan is sort of like work on my own thing again and be good at it. And so there's this transition period in between where, yeah, maybe I'm doing both things. Maybe I'm just writing design docs and stuff. I take some inspiration here from people like Tolkien, actually. From what I understand of Tolkien's writing process, he made The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings over the course of like a ton of years, right? Just planning the world and the characters and the language. And I think it's a really inspiring process because I think there's a lot with coding that can be kind of similar, where it's like you come up with a product, you'll have the design of the product, you'll have the design of the code, you'll have a business plan maybe, and you can just keep solidifying those things. Granted, the market will probably change over the course of like 10 years, so it's not like a book in that regard. But yeah, I wonder how much I can hone in on that plan as I'm doing it. Yeah, so I probably won't answer this too much. I tower in you. I also think it's probably a tough question to answer. But in general, I don't focus on my diet too much. I guess I could say that. What technologies will I be working on? Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. You'd leave it as is and not even put anything there. I'll have to consider that too. Yeah. Have you or will you write about the overall experience of preparing? Thinking in the form of want to get a specific job at a specific company. Here's a formula that worked for me. What I will probably do is write that blog post, and I might even start this weekend. And I was debating on whether I should do that on stream. That's another thing that's kind of questionable. I don't think that's interesting to watch. But I probably won't frame it in this light, as in, here's what I did, here's what worked for me. It'd be more like just, here's my experience, and it happened to work for me. But I can't say for sure that it'll work for other people, which I guess is kind of a slight rewording of what you're saying here. And thank you, Necromage. Yeah, 5 hours is pretty common for these. And yeah, NDAs for job interviews. I think the biggest reason for NDAs at these big ones is because they don't want you sharing even the questions you got, because they'll probably reuse those for the next couple weeks. But at smaller companies, yeah, they don't do an NDA for the interview process at least. And why can't you say the interview questions? We only live once. So Tanvir, I think this is kind of what I was just answering. I know you didn't. I know this was already typed already, but I don't think it's a good idea to share those, even if I wasn't under NDA. Like, I just don't think that's good etiquette for this. Thank you, Safe. Studying for similar tech interviews, and your videos are helping a ton. I'm really glad. I'm really, really glad. Honestly, this is one of the best things to come out of the last 5 years, is messages like this. And that's part of the reason I turned off subs and said, hey, if you wanna make me feel good, just say you're doing a great job or something. I I really want this to be a component of what I do in the future too. And I'd love to help people. And I've got to figure out a sustainable way of doing that. Because like I said, my plan for the next few years is to focus on my full-time gig and make sure I'm doing a good job there. Because I feel like at either of these companies, if I work there, if I do a good job, if I get promoted once or twice, that's it. Like, that's proof to me that I could pretty much do whatever I want to do at that point. And then it's a matter of focusing on that. Blasphemy. It's kind of not cool to share interview questions openly. Yeah, yeah. And the other thing too is, I mean, as far as coding questions go, it's like LeetCode has what, 1,000 or 1,500. As far as system design questions go, system design questions are mostly just like 10 words or 15 words, or sometimes as simple as two, like design Twitter. And so they're not that hard to come up with and still get practice if that's what you're looking for. And if what you're looking for is a shortcut through the interview process, I'd say you should probably not look for a shortcut through that. Yeah, I think chats would be kind of interesting, except for I'm worried that it's. I don't know what I'm worried about actually. I have some worry. I guess I'll just kind of brain spew and we'll figure out what it is as I talk about it. So worries about fireside chats with Adam would be they're not that interesting after a while. Maybe that I'm not honing my skills as I have them. And am I even an expert on anything that I'm talking about? So a lot of what we're talking about here is my experience or what the interview process was like. So these are things that I think it's okay to weigh in on. Well, I don't know. I guess as long as everyone has that caveat in their head of it's just my thoughts or my opinions, it's probably fine. But then is there something better maybe? Is this impactful enough? Those are some other questions I guess I have. What would I work on in each company? So I don't actually know yet. Yeah. All I know is at Amazon it would be the workspaces team, but at Google it's just some Google technology, and that's as much as I know right now. His job is only a specific part of the cart checkout process. Amazing how narrow some of the focus gets. Yeah, it is pretty crazy. And thank you, JJ. Did I thanked another JJ, didn't I? I did. Oh man, that's crazy. Yeah, two JJs today. I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I said those words already. Am I gonna have to relocate? No, I shouldn't have to. And thank you. When you choose the job based on the team, or does the money difference, if there is any, also impact your choice? I think the money is going to matter the least of all those things. I think the team, I think to some extent the location, because while it would all be within probably 10 miles, some 10-mile paths are easier than other 10-mile paths. And of course, if it's close, I think that's pretty nice too. So I think it's some combination of the team, the work, the lead, and the location. And I think it's probably, I don't know which ones of these I'd rate higher. I think it's important that I work for someone that I respect and can learn from and trust. And it's very hard to get that in half an hour that you'll even like or trust them because that's just not enough insight into somebody. The work, I think it's a little bit easier to get some insight into that because you can ask about, okay, what's that average job like? What's the technology? How much scope do I have? Those sorts of things. The team is also pretty hard to ask about because you're probably not meeting them during these interviews. So I'll have to ask a lot of questions and find out. And have 5 offers and 12 interviews. Wait, why the Kappa? I don't know about Google or Amazon, but other companies will get you prep materials. Yeah. So that is generally the case for these companies too. And that's public that they will say, yeah, here's how you can prep for our interviews. That I think is good. But I think what some people might be asking about is like, what are the specific questions? And this is something that I people have to be asking about it because that's how LeetCode makes some of their money. Is if you look at their premium thing that they have here, they say with this select questions by company. Target your studying more accurately toward your dream job. Find out which companies ask which questions. We have nearly 200 questions from Google alone. It's like this wasn't appealing to me because I thought, who cares what these 200 questions are? Shouldn't I be able to do pretty much any question? And I guess there are some other things here too, but this is a selling point. Otherwise, they wouldn't list it. Friendly reminder to use pay time off if you haven't. You mean at the new company? Because I was gonna say at the current company, there's no real concept right now. And thank you, Donkey. I really admire your work style and productivity. Have any suggestions to newbies about productivity, especially starting taking notes and documenting? I have some notes about taking notes. I think that when it comes to documenting, my general gauges are, do I think I'll remember this later? If no, write it down. And do I think someone else may want it later? And what else? Yeah, pretty much this. And I guess as a component of this is how long do I think it'll take for me to get back to that knowledge later? So let's say you can't remember how to sort something in Python. So sort an array in Python. In roughly 10 seconds, you get your answer. So it's like, if you don't remember this, there's still no need to write this down. Like, who cares? You can find it in 10 seconds. So what does it matter? But a lot of the stuff that I end up doing, like, there were things we were learning with Blender, for example, that I've got in this note where it's like, I'm probably not going to remember this specific thing about, hey, my texture isn't showing up and here's how I solved it and here's maybe more information or here's a video for reference. As far as productivity, this is a very broad topic. And so I would say, I think good productivity is focused on tackling the most important task or most urgent task. So you prioritize based on some dimensions. But productivity in general is also based on you tackling tasks you enjoy. So you've got to have a mix of them, I think. So if you're doing some like really arduous task for like 5 days a week, it's going to be very easy to get burnt out. And so you mix in some other things in between to even it out. Is 2 gigs enough in 2020? I think it's enough if you're remoting into a machine with more. Thanks for keeping it alive as long as you have. Aw, Paul, stop playing. I'm writing this down. That's really cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep it alive for longer. I should have a way for doing this. In fact, I should ask. Write some other things down. Yeah, that's really good to hear, though. I'm glad. Yeah. How much is income? Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to be sharing that, but I also don't even have the offers in hand, so I can't answer that right now. What are the things you'll take into account for the final decision? Money's important. Maybe that's the most important thing. I think I answered this right after you had asked it, so hopefully you have that answer. Let me see if you commented. Yeah, hopefully you got that answer. If not, let me know. Thank you, Moosey Boy. Said it more to confirm. Did you actually straight up tell them that in 10 years you plan on doing your own stuff? No, I didn't tell them that, nor would I actually be probably hesitant about telling them that. I think most companies, if you work there for a year or 2 years, you'll have kind of paid off for the interview process. But if you're working there for 10 years, let's say, you've certainly kind of gotten value for the company. My plan is not to ditch one of these companies and immediately get back to my own thing. I want to put my full effort into working for at least 3 years, I think. And I think more likely that'll turn into 5, and then I'll have some big decisions to make. Because this last endeavor I did was 5 years. I think doing something for another 5 years is very tough to commit to ahead of time. But I'm going to try to commit to, like I said, about 3. And I remember I had a friend who started at Google and then quit, I think, 2 business days after joining. And I still don't totally remember why that was. Something about a manager problem. But it's like that person also probably didn't start with the intention to quit after 2 days. You know, like things happen. Stopped and went back and started over several times. Yeah. Yeah, crazy. And did I use JavaScript in the interviews? Yeah, this is something again that they just said ahead of time. Like you pretty much just pick what language you like. I don't. Yeah. Did you show the stream stuff? How much do you think it might have helped you? Did I show the stream stuff? What do you mean? What is the stream stuff? I'll answer what I think this might be talking about. I did not show any of the interview process itself. I didn't stream that, but I streamed all of the interview prep. So if you go look at, hang on a second. Gotta make sure this is muted. If you look at this playlist on YouTube, and I'll link this in the chat, this is all the technical interview prep that I did. So there are 34 videos. Well, no, I guess 33 videos. The last one says interviews done. But I'll link that in the chat. Maybe that's what you're talking about. And if not, just feel free to ask again. I'm not sure what you mean. Did I ever have imposter syndrome? Do the people who join these big companies develop it after being around people with more experience? Yeah, I would venture a guess that pretty much every developer has had imposter syndrome at some point. And it might just be early in your career, but I think it's pretty hard to completely avoid that. And specifically at these big companies, I hear that it happens for a lot of people in their first 3 to 6 months because of just how many different things there are to learn. There's this saying, drinking from the fire hose, that you kind of get that impression when you're at these new jobs that you just can't keep up, and it's expected that you can't keep up. And so if it takes you 3 months before you're finally doing any meaningful changes, that's like expected and understood. Do I actually save these? No, I don't. I typically just go through and close them all. So I'll just do this and they're all gone. I should probably turn down the volume if I'm going to do that, huh? Thank you, Knowledge. Yeah. A lot of people don't want to share their interview questions, to be honest. Yeah. Thank you too, Resist Zero. Thank you. Thank you. It'll still put a smile on my face. If the bot ever has to say, great job, Adam, that's all I need. Then don't abuse it, chat. Thank you, Leander. MK, yeah. I got them both. And I'm really happy because I don't have that anxiety looming over me anymore. Jump ship back and forth, the big boys. I don't think I want to work for all the big companies though. That was the big issue. I think for some people, they apply to FANG jobs and they apply to, let's say, five, six of the FANG companies, and they're okay with pretty much any of them. And for me, that's just not the case. I want to work at a company that I think I kind of generally align with. And I know that it's hard to say that on the company scale because these are very big places. But I wouldn't want to work for a company that I just actively dislike. You feel better about the individual interviews that you scored low? I've thought about this because, yeah, what C17R is talking about is something you guys can't see anymore. And I don't think you guys have access to this, do you? Version history in a document? I don't think you can access this, but I just edited this yesterday and I'll show you what it looked like before editing. So here it was. So I rated myself on a scale of 1 to 10. These are my own ratings of how I think I did in the interviews. And there were 5 interviews for both companies. And so this one, for example, being a 1, that's what this question is do you think this would really still be a 1 or this would really still be a 3? I think they could be a little bit higher maybe, or that these other ones could have been higher. I don't know. But in general, I think I was pretty realistic about the performance. This one might have been higher than I thought. Maybe this was like a 7 or an 8. I don't know. And this one could have been like a 3. But remember, these are just my gauge on how these things went. So it's just, yeah, it doesn't mean a whole lot in the end anyway, I think. Hey, Mike Sai, thank you. Fireside chats would be lit. Endure. Thank you, Tilly. Thank you. I really appreciate it. How much of a Tolkien fan are you? Do you like other fantasy authors too? I think Tolkien, like George R.R. Martin, is genius level at world building. But when it came to actually reading the books, because I bought them in like 2010, I could not get through the books. And I'm not being specific there. I couldn't get through Tolkien's books. George R.R. Martin's, I think I got to the 3rd or the 4th book in the series, and I thought, this is too hard to read over the course of many months because there's so many characters. And if you take 2 weeks of a break and you come back and you're like, darn it, who is this person? Where were they significant? Was this in the 2nd book or the 3rd book? So that just became too hard to keep track of, but I think I was still enjoying it. But yeah, I generally like fantasy, science fiction. Wouldn't mind a short stream of you just playing a casual game. Doesn't have to be too much of a job for you. This is something I probably won't do. I actually don't enjoy streaming games. I play games because they're relaxing, and I stream in a way that does not make it relaxing for me. So I probably won't stream myself playing games. Now, how many technologies do you think I'll need to learn? Or do you think it'll be more like just getting used to the code they're already using? From what I understand, a ton of technologies. I think a lot of these big companies have a process for doing things that will never fully align to any other process you've used. So back when I worked at Microsoft, they were not using Git for their source code. Now I think they are using Git. But back then it was just something custom. And so like you had to learn that tooling, and that was just for something that you might take for granted, like, hey, I want to commit this code. And granted, it's not like those are hard commands to learn, but that's something still that you have to keep in your head. What about, hey, I want to use this open source software. Is there some legal process you have to go through for it? Because you know what my legal process is right now? I go to something on GitHub. I press the T key on my keyboard and I type license. And if it says MIT, then I use it. And if it says Apache, then I figure out what the actual license restrictions are and look at that. But that's it. Like I was the legal department for the last 5 years. So anything like that you do kind of take for granted, or like, how do I schedule a meeting for someone? Do I, like, what's the etiquette here? Or who do I involve? Or do I need an agenda? Or all of those sorts of things come into play. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of technologies to learn, a lot of tooling. Think your colleagues will watch you stream? I don't think I'm going to talk about it. Although one thing that I guess will be obvious if I'm streaming regularly is this. That I have a green screen behind me. So if I have that, they'll probably ask like, why do you have that just for meetings here? So that might come up. I probably don't want to take that down. Thank you, Simon. What's important is I keep the Adam 1353 friend alive. I remember when I started streaming, it was maybe a month in, and someone had said to me, you should probably drop the numbers at the end of your name. And I thought, but I'm a month in, I've got all this momentum. Well, now I'm 5 years in. Although I did try changing my name at one point, but the name I wanted was taken. Thank you, Kikona. And thank you to Japan. Hey, if this happens, like I said, I don't think that would be a bad gig for me. And I think with Google's resources, there could be a lot accomplished that I could never do on my own. So that might actually be okay. But I don't think that sort of thing will ever happen. I remember a long time ago, I was interviewing with Google and they said, "Hey, what are you interested in?" And I said, like, I'm really interested in gaming, game engines. And they said, "Oh, well, we don't really have anything like that at Google." And I said, "Oh, well, would you ever?" And he said, "It's pretty hard to fit that into our mission statement right now." Now, granted, this guy I was talking to, maybe he was like a staff level engineer, senior engineer. He's not like the CEO of the company, right? So Google did eventually buy Stadia, or they made it. I don't know actually how they got to that technology, which is gaming related. And so whatever their mission statement was then, I guess now the current one allows it to happen. So you never know. Could be something like that for Google, a new botland. Thank you, Nerva. Thank you. Thank you. Go to Chrome, bring a bit of diversity. Congrats. Thanks, Andy. Yeah, biking to work is actually something I thought of. I don't think I'd ever want to bike to work if there weren't showers at work. I don't think I can bike without sweating, and I don't think I'd want to be sweaty in the morning. Is living cost high in Washington or the area you live in? In Washington as a whole, no. Washington has a pretty diverse population across the state. But in Seattle, I would say, yeah, it's moderately high. And when I say moderately high, I mean moderately high for the country. Like highest cost of living place in the country, at least was San Francisco, I think. And then probably New York City's up there and, other major hubs in the US. And Seattle's, yeah, probably one of the top like 5 tech hubs in the US. I mean, I'm just making up numbers, right? But like it's up there. What's the extension I use for the left arrow? That is AutoHotkey. And yeah, and during LinkedIn. But that's called a hot string. So I can type something like this or this or this, and it'll just replace it with any characters I need. And that can type out really arbitrary things if you want. It can do commands like this where I can resize a window automatically. So that does a lot of stuff. Did the offers fit the benefits and comp you were expecting? I have not gotten offers yet. Yeah. Thank you, Ryu. As I can't answer this question yet. How much practice did it take? That is very hard to answer because I can tell you how much practice I did, but I don't know how much it would have taken, and I don't know how much it takes in general. So how much I did was probably like 120 hours or so. Actually, we should be able to answer this by looking at, let me go to that playlist, because the playlist should just have all of the time that I spent on this, and we could just sum this up. All right, let's do it. So I'm just going to add up the hours amount, and I'm going to just round very roughly here so that I don't spend a lot of time on this. So we're at the 7, 10, 1. Okay, 4, 3, 2. And this is only the time I did on stream. I did a bunch off stream as well, which I'll try to kind of estimate. 7, 7. Oh, I was just going to say, I wonder if YouTube just tells me the time that this is and I don't need to sum up any of this stuff. But I only have a few more videos left to do. 2, 2, 5, 3, 2. Okay, so that was 133 hours of streaming, which that probably included lunchtime and stuff, and then some time off stream. So I guess I spent quite a lot of time. Now, how much would it have taken? Like, let's say I had no practice and I went into these interviews, would I have gotten the job? I'm inclined to say no. So the answer is somewhere between 0 and 150 hours. And if I had to guess, I think it's probably on the order of like 20 to 40 for me that I might have been able to get away with. But I had the time, so I used it for that. What's my advice for you? And by the way, thank you, Flat. Pretty small company for a junior part-time web dev position. What's your best advice? I think it's kind of based on your goals. So this might not align with your goals, but I'd say my biggest piece of advice is to make sure you're learning as much as you can, especially if there are more senior people there. So if this is a small company, let's say it's a law firm and you're the only real developer, then yeah, there's probably not too much you can learn from other people there, unless you're interested in law, I guess. But if you're working with any other developers, like try to get them as your mentors, try to ask them a lot of questions, try to learn as much as you can. Because yeah, junior part-time, I think you can expand this to wherever you want after this. And yeah, steer yourself toward that. Thank you, Draco. That's aggressive marketing. I forgot what I said 16 minutes ago. Trat. Thank you, Major Lift. Should make the right choice. This has been something, by the way, this is part of the nerve wracking aspect to this. It's one thing to be waiting for a job, waiting for a result, and potentially hear no as an answer. It's another thing when almost every day for the last 2-3 weeks, people have come into the stream and have been like, hey, any news on the job front? And I think it would have been really sucky for me to have to be like, yeah, there's news. I didn't get either job or something like that. That was a level of anxiety that was also kind of added, but that's my own doing. I'm not complaining about that or something. I'm just saying that's how I felt. Any questions based on the company that accusingly uses them? It's so dumb. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Also, yes, did drop some frames. Let me set this up so you guys can see the drop frames. OBS. Oops. Drat. So difficult to do this sometimes. Put this up here. There. Well, I need to justify or get acceptance. Might as well document it. Yeah, I think if your typing speed is fast enough, documenting something hastily should not take too long. Documenting something well will pretty much always take a long time, regardless of whether you type quickly. Like these Blender notes I was trying to make, I wanted to make sure the screenshot showed enough, and I was pointing the right thing, and then I lined this up correctly in here, and yeah, that does take some time. What job did I get? Please do check the today command. It's got because I've been getting this particular question quite a lot. It's in this what's next, this first bullet point. So I'll just leave that kind of on the screen over here. Oh, this is taking longer than it would have if I just said I don't know. Thank you, Frost. The world ends, you don't have to decide anything. That is true. That's a caveat I should put at the end of any decision. Hey, what ice cream would you like? Well, if by the end of this sentence the world is still up, then I will take the chocolate ice cream. What was the last job? I'm not sure what you mean. I'll try to answer this in a way that I can kind of answer this. So 2014 to 2015, I haven't shared, but 2015 until now was my own company. So if you are asking about that as a last job, then yeah, sorry, I haven't actually shared that. They ran out of pizza. And get that cookie cake. You're right. You are right. And when you're right, you're right. I did mention we went out last night. We celebrated over sushi. That was amazing. It was really, really good. That was my favorite episode of The Office. Something in season 5. I don't remember which. I'd have to look at the episode list. I think you are cool. And what jobs did I get? Yeah, the Google and Amazon jobs. Yeah. I thank you too, Immortal. And casually following your journey. Very glad you're taking the next step. Thank you. Thank you very much. Really, I'm glad I could share this. It's a very, very surreal experience to have done this on Twitch and have been kind of as public as I was with this, because I kept thinking this really sets me up for failure, right? But I guess it also really set me up for success. So I'm really glad you guys could join me in the journey and help out a lot too. I mean, it's not like I was just doing this and like, oh, I have to stream or something. It's like I learned something pretty much every day from someone in chat, especially when it came to the system design stuff. So if you are someone who's interviewing and you're worried you have to do some system design things, do take a look at these notes. They're free. You just type the notes command or go to notes.adamlearns.com. And then these particular notes are in the miscellaneous section. I'm not going to navigate to it here. It's in MISC, and then it's the system design one. Part of the reason this is so good is because of these resources. So if you don't want to take any of my notes on it, then just go look at the top 3 of these links, basically. Really, really good stuff. Hey, Mr. Halsey. Hey, Black Flag, thank you. How to get referrals? Referrals are all about, do you already know someone who works there? Because I think if you don't know someone who works there, I think it's a little strange if you were to just kind of put out feelers for, hey, can anyone refer me? So I'm not totally sure what the spirit of the question is here. And feel free to ask it in a slightly different way. Maybe I'm being dense. And hey, Smacks, thank you. How much is the salary? That I won't be sharing. Yeah. And thank you, Mr. Halsey. And yeah, drinking from the fire hose. Yeah. Feel most of these jobs are out of my reach, and the game of interviews seems terrible. So I will agree with you on only half of your message. The game of interviews seems terrible. This is a whopping check mark for this. But this part, I do not agree with. So that one gets an X. um, I can't disagree with your feelings, actually. But I think that it actually being out of reach is something that is not true. I think this is very daunting for sure. And like I said, I totally agree. Interviews just suck. They just suck. So this is something that it'll take some work and it might take multiple attempts. You might apply to company X and get rejected, and then a year or two later, you apply again and you get accepted. So I would say keep at it and keep trying. And honestly, this is where I wish the interview process aligned a little bit more with how jobs actually went, because then studying for them wouldn't be a waste of time. So maybe I'd say like maybe the try to find a way to make prep more fun. Maybe that can work. Were you able to interview with the team you're joining at either place? If so, how much does this weigh into your decision? I probably shouldn't share the answer to that. I don't know what falls under the NDA and what doesn't for this. So anything that I know for sure was public ahead of time, the NDA actually explicitly says you're allowed to share, because they can't put a retroactive gag order on information they didn't tell you about ahead of time. Yeah. So sorry, I probably won't touch on that too much. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Succeeded in my transition into a software dev job about 3 years ago. Imposter syndrome was a real ambitious thing for a long time. Yeah, it definitely is. And we had a great conversation one day on here about ego, and I really kind of opened up quite a lot in that conversation. Let me see if I have that. Yeah, here it was. The last 3 hours of this VOD, and I'm just kind of linking this in for anyone who's interested. We talked about a lot of things. And one of the things we talked about is imposter syndrome and whether it means the opposite of having a high ego. And someone shared a little snippet about themselves I thought was pretty nice, which is that the two are not opposites. Like both of these, I think, can be defense mechanisms for people. And imposter syndrome is, it's just tough. Because like I said, I think every programmer has probably felt it at some point. And the reason why is because tech is so vast and because you get to see the output of other people's work. It's not like you're working completely in a silo. You interact with other people's code, you use libraries, you see design patterns, and you're like, would I have ever come up with that? But I think that's why the important thing is, do you know more than you did last year? If you did, then cool, you learned, and as long as you just keep learning, I think that's all that you can really do. Do you know what your office would be like? I have no idea. Also, this won't matter until 2021 anyway, but I think most tech companies around here have steered toward an open office setup. Oh, I meant you spent hundreds of hours showcasing your coding skills. You share that you stream and Twitch. Oh, I see what you're saying. And sorry that it's taking this long to get back to you about this. Yes, that is actually on my resume. And I think the reason why is because one of the things I had is in my portfolio, which is just hire.adamlearns.com, I had links to all these VODs and I had a bunch of projects that I did. And I think it really informs the last 5 years of what I was doing. So I think it's worth sharing. Thank you, Liaison. Thank you. 5 interviews? Why are there so many? This is pretty standard from these big companies. They just try to cover all their bases and they make sure that they've got enough to talk about amongst each other. Because if you think about it, if they cut it down to one interview, then they could interview 5 times as many people, but then they'd be less certain about them. So the 5 interviews, I think, are so that they can get a more accurate gauge about who you are as a worker. I mean, LeetCode might have helped. It's very hard for me to say. And Beldithis, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so titles, I haven't shared titles. I actually am not totally sure what the titles are. And like maybe I'll share that at some point. I probably already did at some point, but I'm going to hold off for now about sharing it again. Could have been looking for other qualities during the interview. Yeah, that is true. Yeah. Were you working during the job interview prep? I was only doing the job interview prep that you saw in whatever that playlist was. So for the last 5 years, I've been working for my own startup. And so I had the flexibility to say, all right, now we're just going to spend a month and a half on interview prep. And what I had been doing before that was working on Adam Learns. And I felt a little bit bitter about having to put this aside for interview prep and kind of for a bunch of reasons. But yeah, I'm going to get back to this in the next couple of weeks to write a few more blog posts. and then that's probably it for the next half year or a year at least. Making courses is very hard work. It was typically something between like 80 and 150 hours for a course, including the amount of time learning for me. And if you don't count the learning time, then it was like 40 to 110 hours. So not a small endeavor whatsoever. Yeah. Notes are better than Tolkien. I don't think that. But I don't know what Google uses. Yeah. I don't know. For one day, can you lower the cheer limit? No. I really don't want people's money through the stream. So the cheer limit is set so that I don't get people's money, and I can't turn it off or else I would have. Oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I kind of was doing it full time, Suavo. I from February until about June. Yeah, from February till June, I was doing just that. I had this list of projects, and these were super fun and also very insightful. So the projects that we worked on at first were to just get the monetization of the show up and running. So I made a Discord bot, I integrated it with Git. Then we started some of the real projects. There was the Minecraft mod that we made, the NES ROM. We never actually finished with lockpicking. We did hacking for a week. I made the website on stream that you see here. Then we learned Godot, and I made a game for that, and that is here. And then what else did we do? Some marketing. That wasn't actually too important. Yeah, this is when things started to break down. This is when I started looking for jobs, I think. So kind of a shame, but I would have liked to have gotten back to that. Who knows? Could be in the future. Using all your video calls for work. Oh, okay. I guess I could just say I wanted a neutral background. Yeah. Mentioned a 60-page Google Doc earlier when I wasn't in chat. Is there a command? Yeah, I can link it for you. Sure. It is called the "You Suck at the Coding Interview." I think I said an extra "the" in there. Let me make sure I copy that. Yeah. Here it is. I think this document is really good. It's mostly a hey, let's a little bit aggressively kick you into shape and kind of make you realize what you need out of the coding interviews. And so like it's one person's opinion, take it with a grain of salt, but I think it was good at motivating me. That's what gave me the inspiration to say, all right, I should do this. If you join Google, how are you going to work with Google Keep instead of OneNote? I don't think I'm going to change most of my personal processes. So, for example, people were like, "Oh, are you still going to use Bing?" Like, yeah, I'm still going to use Bing. Bing, as long as they're giving me Amazon gift cards to use Bing, I'm going to use it. There's Bing rewards at the top, which is what I've been using it for. I was never sponsored by them. This is not sponsored here. I hate when it does that. Where did that go? Yeah, here it was. Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to stop using Bing. I don't think I'm going to stop using OneNote. I might stop using Windows. This is something I was actually asking about, is like what operating system these companies expect, and it's typically not Windows. So Google, or not Google, what am I talking about? Linux or a Mac. I don't know what I'm going to use, but that's going to be a big change. I've used both, and I've used both as like primary operating systems for some time, but not recently. Take a picture without the green screen and put it in the background. Where are the notes located? If you type the notes command and then click MISC, you'll find the ones that I was just talking about. But really, you've got all of these notes. So I even just updated some of these yesterday, like the auto hockey one I updated. But yeah, these are my own notes that I use for myself too. So they tend to get updated every once in a while. I don't have a 10-minute delay. I'm right now responding. What I like to do for these conversational streams is respond to all chat messages. And so it's 10:34 for me, so I'm 18 minutes behind on chat. And as we go, it's kind of the sine wave of me catching up and then falling behind again. And I never actually really like advertise that anywhere. I probably should. Thank you, Volatile Majesty. Why don't you upload your emotes? I still have a thing written to myself of ask Twitch if I can upload my old sub emotes. And I just never did that. I probably should file a ticket. What did you want to do in gaming at Google? Back when I asked the question, it was probably, I don't know, 2014. And so what I wanted to do was probably just whatever Google had. And what I was mentioning now was if there was some way to combine the game that I had done with potentially working at a big company. And so the game I had done was working on Botland. And I doubt there's any path for this. Yeah. hire you to just be a streamer and continue helping the community. Thanks, Amir. Very nice. Oh, you guys are too nice. I'm gonna write this down too. I'm just gonna save all these messages forever and just what's that meme? The picture of Spider-Man looking at a picture. That's gonna be me. Print this out. Yeah, they do typically have showers, yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Ponko. Thank you. Thank you too, Saxton. And Left. And Professor. See, this is why I wanted to have like a celebration stream at least. Because I owe a lot to the people in chat, and not just during the interview prep process. Honestly, I've said this now a million times. I'm going to say this again though. I had a job a long time ago where I worked pretty much in a basement, and I was a remote developer, and I was the only developer on the team, and I didn't really have any good work-life balance. I didn't have a lot of social contact at the job because I was the only developer, and I just went bonkers. Just I just lost my own personality and started getting like aggressive, and it was really bad. And so before I started streaming on Twitch, I thought, "Uh-oh, what if that happens again? What if I go crazy?" And it just hopefully never happened. 2015 up until now, I have not had typical coworkers. I have worked with people, but the majority of these days where I was streaming on Twitch and you guys would watch the process, you'd chime in, you'd share jokes, you'd share tips. And that was awesome. That was definitely awesome. This will always be the Botland and Twitch era of my life. And maybe someday I'll get back to it, but I don't regret that experience. I think it was really good. Can I share the scripts? They should be in the AHK command. And if there's any particular script you want, do let me know. But in general, the scripts are not anything too crazy. Like if you look at the script I have for generic stuff, a lot of it is just like, hey, here are things I like typing a lot. Here's some typos. Here are symbols that I type. So if I want to type out the word resume and not have to actually find the character codes for it, I can do that. And so if you just want to know what I use, I'm happy to upload that. But most of these are not, they're not like anything crazy. Like the scripts themselves are simple. Thank you, 50 cal. Did I get any feedback? Not really, no. Like very tiny snippets along the lines of something like "you did well" or "you didn't do well." That was about it. So I do want to actually ask: is there any more feedback they have? So you got the jobs that haven't given offers yet. It seems kind of weird. You're going to get them before having to decide, right? Yes, I will get them before having to decide. Yep. And yeah, that part of this is like weird scheduling, and part of it is normal scheduling, and I don't know how much I can share and how much I can't. So yeah, for now it's just I don't have offers yet. Exactly. But thank you, Bird and chat. Where to get the job? Yeah, Google and Amazon. Been following you for a while. Fair play. Thank you too, Naughty. Yeah. Yeah, this is pretty much what happened. Like we are going to extend an offer. We have not actually extended it yet. And like I said, there's some like weird scheduling things going on for some of this. Thanks, Bird. Oh, Leak Code Premium. Oh, I see. Yeah. Job. Thanks. No sub button. Yeah, I turned off the sub button. I don't want subscribers on my stream. Do check the. Oh yeah, I think you typed it in. No, alias com sub to no subs. Yeah, if someone hasn't typed it in, this command explains it. I'll just put it on my own screen. I disabled it. Yeah, July 24th, and it's because if I'm not going to be streaming full time, I don't want your money. Can I show the Blender notes? Yeah, just type the notes command. They're in programs and then Blender. And remember, I only started learning Blender like 3 days ago. So these are not going to be great notes. And in fact, I have some organization to do. I'll basically fill this with contents from this note. I think at this point, you know what we'll do? We'll just delete this note entirely. And I'll just call the other one Blender. There. It's probably better. Oh, I stream after I start the job? I don't know. I'm debating on whether to stream or do things on YouTube, whether to just stick to blogging or something, whether to just do things on Discord. I have no idea yet. I got to figure that out. Probably 1 month to complete. First 2 recording challenges. There was a casual interview. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, 50 cal. I think This process would be a little easier to stomach if you were told, hey, here's why exactly we're not going to hire you. But companies don't do that, and in some cases can't do that. But imagine if they were like, hey, look, you came up with this algorithm and we would have preferred this one. And it was as simple as that. And you're like, well, I don't necessarily agree, but at least I know. But instead, it's just like, well, you went into a 3 hour long black box and you came out and you got a Boolean answer, yes or no. And it's like, that shouldn't be the process. Now, maybe you got feedback, in which case, that's at least some solace. I know it still stings, but I think knowing how you can improve is really important in that. Congrats for Japan. Things can be go. What was my own company? Is it like contracting for other projects or actually building and selling a product, courses? The two things that I worked on in the time that I was at my own company was Botland, which was like a full featured game. This had a lot of parts to it. So the overall game itself, I'll show you how this worked. You made bots, and so you customize the different parts of them. So we might say like this has missiles and it has melee and it has whatever else. And then you could write a script for it. So you'd go into the scripting and you'd say something like, okay, I have missiles, right? So let's go into snippets and we'll say like, okay, just try firing missiles. And then let's try using melee on the bot that has the lowest life. And then let's maybe move around. And then afterward, you know what? I don't feel like figuring the rest out. Here it is. And if you wanted to write this as code, you could. And so then these battles would play out according to what you did. And so here's an example of someone else who attacked my defense. And you can see my bots teleporting and like shooting lasers and whatever else. So yeah, this was a lot of work behind this. There are a lot of features to it, and it's still online and running. So that took about 4 years. And then the other part of it was making Adam Learns, which was this course selling website. So I made the site itself, and then I of course made the courses for it because I'm in all of the videos. And that's it. So yeah, just didn't make enough money for me to continue doing it. Yeah, thank you, Liaison. Thank you. Did it come up during any of the interviews? Like kinda. That's as much as I can probably say. Yeah. Horse whisperer. Out of reach is personal. Yeah, it is. And I think there could actually be any reason for that happening to the point where I shouldn't trivialize it. I'd rather, without knowing the circumstances, I'd rather give an uplifting message to that. I guess there are some circumstances where I couldn't necessarily address it. So I don't actually, I'm not sure this is correct, but I'm not sure I want to correct it either. Is a relocation required? No, not at all. Yeah. Do I have a green cursor? Yeah, I do. For the Godot video, I set a green cursor and I also set it to gigantic. You can't see the gigantic part of it unless I do this. There. And now you can see two cursors, right? I still only see one on my screen. But I made it very large for the Godot video because with a game, it's hard to point at things with a tiny white and black mouse cursor. So I made it very large so people could tell where I'm pointing. Do either jobs require you to relocate or be located? Are they 100% remote? Where I live is the Seattle-ish area. And so it's already kind of a tech hub to the point where I just applied to companies that were in the area. So they wouldn't have required me to relocate. Now, had I applied to ones in, let's say, California, I think I think it would have been up in the air. Because let's say a year ago, most of them would have been like, okay, you're gonna relocate. But now that isolation has happened, I think more would be open to, yeah, you could work remote. With that said, I don't know how remote work would go for me. It might be good, it might be bad. And so I'm kind of looking forward to actually going into an office because I just mentioned this. I was worried when I started on Twitch that I'd just go crazy from not having social contact. But it turns out chat is still social contact enough for me to not have gone crazy. But now what happens when I'm working from home and I don't have someone to talk to for 8 hours a day? What if I actually do go crazy there? So I'm a little worried about that. But thankfully, I think this will, my guess, and this could obviously change, is that probably whatever office I go work at would allow people to come back in let's say March. So let's say I start September 1st, which is not going to happen. That'd be 6 months. That's not too bad. Thank you, Global Hero. New World Betsky? I don't know what this means. Let me search this. Oh, beta. Oh, okay, never mind. I know what you're talking about. Is this Amazon's game? Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I am not in the loop on this. I see I got the job, so I'm here to say you did great. Oh, is this a typo? I see you got the job? Okay, yeah. Well, I'm gonna assume that's what you meant, so thank you. You should get a new job every day. And upper hand salary rise. I'm not gonna talk too much about the negotiation process, so maybe, maybe not. I don't know. And what made these stick out to me over the other Fang companies? Uh, I had previously talked about this a little bit more openly than I'm going to talk about it now. Um, I think everyone for every company has some general perception that you could probably rank on a scale of like 1 to 100 along different dimensions of goodness and impact and whatever else, right? So, put simply, some of these companies rated lower than other ones. And then Netflix in particular, I just think was only in California, so I just didn't really consider that. And there are other companies that aren't part of this acronym that I still consider FANG. So like Microsoft, I think might kind of be a FANG company. I would work for Microsoft. But yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about this. I think that's probably a mistake even when I was talking about it openly originally. Got your latest job after 6? Yeah. When was your latest job? Was it in the last 6 months by any chance? Do you think one should learn new skills, horizontal growth, or improve skills? Which strategy can help sustain an okay career and prepare you for entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship, I think, requires a lot of breadth or money to compensate for the depth. So, for example, I'm not an artist. For me to get breadth in any sort of art is possible, but that would take so long that that's where I just spent money. So, I think you need a little of both, and you probably have to prioritize based on what kind of business you think you might want to do. But I'm speaking very generally here. I think for me, I've always liked variety over the depth that you might have. And yet, even with that variety, I still go very deep on a lot of different things. So it's hard for me to say. I was not a successful entrepreneur, so my advice should be taken with a large grain of salt. Anything you have it? Interesting. I was gonna say saying it's nice is a little strange, but yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think this is a very very easy precipice to fall over and then be afflicted by imposter syndrome. Thank you, Heisenberg, and I'm glad it's helped. I'm really glad. Glad it's better work life balance. Otherwise, I just pick up more money. I am leaning toward a company, and I've probably already shared this on stream before, but I'm gonna I'm gonna act more coy about this for the next like couple weeks until I finally share. But most of you could probably just guess. Yeah, straw poll let chat decide. I still think that'd be hilarious. Imagine if chat decided most of this process, like what to even apply to, let alone what to pick. I think you learn that. Thank you. I thank you too, newbie. Yeah, the today command talks about it. Google and Amazon. Last year, I spoke to a few people at a meetup and said that I'm doing little things as a hobby in the web area, and I was told apply to Google. Of course, I asked one thing or the other. I don't think Google would hire me. Found it exciting that people in similar areas suggested it. Yeah, this is why I say I don't really think things are off limits. Plus, big companies have a lot of levels in them. And so generally it goes anywhere from like, and I'm just going to make up a number here. Most companies, for some reason, don't actually start you at level 1. I'm not sure why. But anyway, let's say level 1 is junior, and let's say like let's just make up something. Let's say level 100 is senior. Obviously, there's so many ratings in between. Oh, this is a little unrealistic. I guess let's say something like let's say level 5 is senior. There's going to be an L2, an L3, and an L4 in between these things. And and you might have skill enough for the junior position. That's all that really matters, right? Like if there's a position in the company and they want to hire you for it. And so that's why I think it's worth at least interviewing sometimes to see where you stand. Unfortunately, since you likely won't get feedback from those kinds of companies, you might only find out that you didn't make it through and you might not know why. What positions did I apply for? It's kind of talked about in the today command. At Google, you apply for Google and not necessarily a position. And at Amazon, it was a workspaces team. Yeah, Linux over Mac. I'm still not sure what I'll pick exactly, if I even have a choice. I guess you kind of always have a choice, right? Because even if they give you a Mac, you could still put Linux on it. But I don't think I'd do that. But Yeah, I don't know what I'd pick. I think I'd probably go for a Mac, but if it's for only work, I guess having Linux is fine. All these people pushing you to Linux will have the last laugh. I'm not opposed to using Linux. I think I would be opposed to using Windows though if most of the company didn't. Because it almost certainly means that I'm going to want support for something and not have it and then be on my own and they'll just be like, well, you chose Windows. That's my guess. Hey, Voice of Grog, thank you. Thank you too, Blunted. What kind of positions did you get at the jobs? Yes, I just mentioned this, and I know I'm very delayed on chat. It's 10:51 for me, and I'm responding to chat from 10:36. But yeah, what kind of positions? It was developer positions at Amazon and Google. Amazon was for the workspaces team, and Google is for the company. Whoops, my phone just lit up as I said the company name. So stop it, stop it. Okay. Thank you, Melky, and thank you, Two Strix. Do you play games now? I do play games, yeah. Actually, you know what? Oh my god, I was very impressed. So Nintendo sucks at online. I think everybody kind of knows that, and it's sort of a meme at this point. I I had the online membership, and I was playing the Super Nintendo games yesterday with a friend of mine. That is an incredibly smooth experience. So my biggest question is, could we play Super Metroid together? And together, it's not a two-player game, so I didn't expect this to be some like, they add in some new mode or something. But the answer is yes. If you are playing online with someone, you can swap who has the controller virtually. And I did not expect it to work that way. It's super cool. And you can like point at things in the game. That's kind of nice too. So I was really impressed by that. So yeah, last night I played a bunch of Tetris Attack. Love that game. And I've been playing still a ton of Nuclear Throne. God, that game is so well made. And then some Paper Mario, some Smash, and some StarCraft too. Those are kind of the games right now. Oh, it was Wolverine. Oh yeah, you're right. I gotta give you a point. Yeah. I thought it was Spider-Man. I pictured it as Spider-Man in my head. I've dropped in for a while. I want to give you a heartfelt congratulations. Thank you, Appleseed. Thank you very much. Gives me confidence. I'm following your path and notes as well. Well, like I said, Melky, I don't mind if you want to reach out to me on Discord. I know you joined the Discord, but if you want to reach out at some point, I'd probably do a mock interview, yeah, and try to help you out. I will still warn you again that I'm not very good at them. So I think they'll help you, but I don't think it'll be exactly like the real interview. Would you like to work for yourself again in the future? Yeah. This was an intensely satisfying 5 years to learn a lot about myself, a lot about how I work. Even little things, like something that just came up last week, is how much I think I suffer from analysis paralysis sometimes. And it's very obvious in an engineering case, right? Because you list out, and you've seen me do this on stream, I'll say like option number one, do whatever. And I'll say, okay, here are the pros, here are the cons, and option number two. And usually my gut will lead me towards something in an engineering perspective. But I realized in real life I suffer from this too. And I did not ever realize it was that was happening. And these are the kinds of things that now I can draw from, okay, how did it work from an engineering perspective? And granted, I only just realized it, so I haven't had a lot of opportunity to apply it. But those things I think somewhat stemmed from just doing my own path and forging my way. And yeah, I'd love to figure out a way for this to work again in the future. Celebration stream better have cookie cake. Yeah, like I said, we got sushi last night. I thought that was great. Actually, I might have gotten a picture that I can share with you. Oh no, my wife's in the picture too. I don't want to share that with you guys. Okay. Oh, never mind. It was a chocolate lava cake or something that we got. It's very good. Go to Amazon, persuade them unless you stream and work on Twitch. That was something I'd been kind of considering. So there is a whole role. So everyone knows about developers, but then there's developer advocates or evangelists or whatever they call them, relations sometimes. And this job seemed like something that might be up my alley, but something about it makes me think I might not actually like it. I'm not totally sure what it is, but I wouldn't know until I tried. I'd have to go back to Windows or then tablet app. Yeah, I had to use a Mac for a year. I think it was good after about a month, but for that first month, I was always like, oh, I know how to do this, and I just want to act like I'm doing it on the Windows machine right now, but instead I have to look up how do I do it on Mac. But yeah, after that month, it was much smoother. And I think whenever it comes to something like this, it's all about just like force yourself to use it. Because I'd been using an Ergodox for a while, but I never forced myself to use just that. So for those who haven't seen the Ergodox, here's what it looks like. I finally took it off my desk, so I can't just pick it up and show you. This keyboard looks a little unusual, but what was especially unusual about it is that I bound this key to control and this key to control. So they were on my pointer fingers. And whenever you press something like Control C on Windows, you're not used to pressing your pointer finger in and your ring finger or something. It's like you hit your pinky and then whatever finger you're going to press C with. So I just never committed. And that's what I think happens for operating systems too. But yeah, so what keyboard do I use? I have the keyboard command for that. It's here. It is the Microsoft ergonomic keyboard. It's fine for me. I think if I were ever to make a change, I like this keyboard, but I might get one without a numpad. I think having your mouse hand closer to your keyboard hand is good for your posture. I guess I'll spend these now. Thanks for all your interaction. Don't think you'll ever fully understand the amount of positive impact. Thank you, Andrew. That's very touching. I'm going to save this too. Saving lots of nice comments today. I'm really glad. Yeah, this happened the other day where I think it was very funny, but people were like, "Oh, it's gonna be sad not to have the stream, Adam," and other people were like, "Oh, you're leaving. Oh, goodbye." And then someone said, "Oh, you're dying, Adam. All right, it's nice to see you." I'm not gone for good, and I will be streaming still in the next probably week and a half, including probably tomorrow. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but this was meant to just be a gap in all of the interview prep and the learning Blender, and so I want to get back to productive stuff soon, but I want to make sure not to overdo it before starting work. You'll have someone else, Bunkudge. You'll have someone else. Thank you, Honey Badger. Thank you, thank you. Resource on Google Docs, really appreciate it. Congrats on your success. Well, good luck to you, Julian, and thank you. Yeah, like I said, I think the best resource that I have is the one on system design. And I think the LeetCode stuff and the engineering interview prep, sort of the parent note of that, I think this is good, but I don't know if it's great. And some of the learnings that I had myself, like this was a revelation to me, the go easy on yourself part of things. But it's probably not a revelation for other people. So that's why I think like, hey, if it provides some value, then great. But otherwise, there might be better resources out there. Go to the video about Google interviewing process, and you can request notes from the interview that you're hired, I think. Oh, after you're hired. Oh, cool. I'll write that down. Yeah, that would be interesting. That'd be very interesting. Thank you, Blu-ray. And thank you too, Regular. If you highlight your old VODs for interview prep so Twitch does not delete them, we can view them later. Take a look at the YouTube channel. So I think we have a YouTube command in chat, but if not, it's just youtube.com/c/AdamLearns. And then click playlist. And in playlist, you'll find all of the technical interview prep. So I will link this in the chat. For those who haven't seen these videos, this was me going through the process myself as a candidate, not me trying to teach how other people should do it. So this was like how an actual engineer with industry experience would approach this. And it doesn't mean that it was good. And there were days I got frustrated and days where I didn't answer 3 questions in a row. But that process is all there. So it will be there pretty much forever or until, YouTube finds some reason to give me 3 strikes on my channel. Senior engineer for both positions. Not quite, but I haven't been sharing the exact details. Thank you, Mark. Is Blender just for fun? Yeah, it was just for fun. I think Blender is super cool. Like, I just think it's amazing, and I really want to learn more about it. And I might do some of that off stream. I might continue on stream. I think if I'm going to keep doing it on stream, though, I need a goal for it, and I haven't set out with a goal yet. So I think there could be some cool things that I do. Like even things like, I just showed you guys there's a switch on my desk. Even saying, let's model something like this. Like, I'm sure tons of people do that, and it's not like you sell it or something afterward, but it's just practice. And it can be fun. How'd you take the screenshots? Which tools? I use ShareX, which TurboDave linked in. This is really, really good. So I've shown this before, but let's say you want to point out, hey, here's how some menu is found. So you go to this. You're like, oh yeah, now let me show you this. So I hit Control Print Screen. I press I click here, I click here, I click here, and that's it. It typed out 1, 2, and 3 for me. Then I hit Tab and I take the screenshot, and I've got the perfect screenshot in very little time. And I think that's amazing. And if you want to add any other filters here too, like let's say you want to blur out this wasn't supposed to be important text. There you go. You want to draw some arrows like, oh hey, here's what I want to point out here, and then you want to just select this thing. Super easy. And it does other things too, like picking colors. So I could select this, and now the color's on my clipboard. Done. Do you have any fears about starting the job? Yeah, I do. I have I think if I were to just kind of list some of them, one is working remotely without being able to like truly interact with my coworkers. That's one. Another is the kind of ramp up time and kind of proving myself at one of these jobs. Is there anything else? I don't know. I guess just figuring out a good balance. That's another fear. And this balance is in a lot of different ways. So that's kind of the general answer for this. Keep the camera up while you work. Won't bother you at all. I guess most of the time that wouldn't really be bad, right? If it's literally just a camera on my face and you can't see anything in the reflection of my glasses. But I do talk out loud now that I've been streaming for 5 years, even when I'm alone. So I'll be like, oh, how do I do this? If I had 61 and what? So that'll actually be my thought process now, is I'll vocalize it. So I'd probably end up leaking company secrets if I did that. But that's a very funny idea. Excuse me. Thank you, SWAT Kid. And hey, do an experiment of streaming every workday. See how long before we fire you. I think if I stream my monitor, for sure that'd be against anyone's rules, right? But if you literally are just streaming like your face, talking to people, it's an interesting idea. I don't think people would watch though. I heard that asking for themes to improve on regarding feedback may work better. I will write that down. Yeah. All right. How delayed on chat am I? Wow, it's gone up. I'm 20 minutes behind. Sorry, guys. Sorry, those are the rules. All right. If I have to, then I'll do it. Where are you going to go now? I'll still stream from time to time, I think. That's something I've got to figure out. But definitely, for anyone who's not on Discord, I've got the Discord command. It's just discord.gg/AdamLearns. I would say to join, because that's where I will likely end up posting whenever I end up doing something worth watching or worth reading. Right now, when I go live, I very rarely post notifications. There's no bot doing that. But in the future, it'll probably be like every time I'm about to do something, I'll probably post in the news channel. Yeah. Just a side note. Is it easy to get into it? Does it have a tutorial? It's not really easy to get into. This is part of the reason why the game is discontinued. I think the game was pretty complex. It does have a tutorial. The tutorial is not great, to be honest, even though I spent like 80 plus hours on it. So it's got something. Yeah, it's not great. If you want to find out more, you can take a look at the postmortem. That talks about why I think it did poorly. Hey, Kotoku. Now he's going to be streaming less. Yeah, you'll never get those points. Thank you, Siasco. Could watch and interact with other Twitch streamers while you work if you need more social. That is a good point. That never crossed my mind, Raimo. Huh. Yeah, never thought about that. Thank you, Proxy. Am I going to be a senior engineer? I might share this after I've accepted an offer and I'm maybe more willing to talk about it. Because I shared it beforehand and now I'm questioning whether it's a good idea to share it on this stream. So, I mean, I guess it's not new information, but still, I'm going to keep that to myself for now. But yeah, I'll probably share it afterward. That'll leave in about 20 minutes, which means by the time you read this, I'll be gone. Want to say congrats again. I never had any doubt. I'll miss you streaming and laughing at your own jokes. I'm laughing at your joke now. And talking about random technology I have no interest in learning. Seriously, congrats. Thank you, Johnny, man. Yeah, I know you are probably gone. It's only been 18 minutes. I'm saving this message too. I'm allowed to laugh at my own jokes. Can I give you advice on how I can do a spiral carousel like this without Three.js? So Three.js is just a rendering library. So technically you could do anything like this yourself in Canvas. If you specifically don't want to use rendering libraries, you could use something, well, not, sorry. If you specifically don't want to use Three.js, use another rendering library like Pixie.js, which is what I'd probably suggest, or Phaser, or coming up with a 3D math yourself. I'm not actually going to click the link for right now, but yeah, I would say that. Or if you have a reason specifically about why you're not using Three.js, knowing that might help. Yeah, I don't. I guess Netflix isn't an option there or something. Or maybe it just makes more sense there. Yeah. Thank you. Height above sea level. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, my latest job was perhaps in the last 6 months. Started at the beginning of Feb before the craziness of Japan. I see. Yeah. 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 That's why I was wondering because I believe you said you had to interview what 6 times for that or do six inter. I guess I could just take your message. Yeah, six interviews. Yeah. Yeah, and that's what made me think that it was related to COVID. But I guess if it started in August, it wasn't necessarily. Did I already redeem them? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the way that Bing Rewards works, and like I said, I'm not sponsored by them. I've never been sponsored by them. Um, you get 5,250 points turns into a $5 Amazon gift certificate. So I've gotten I don't know how much it's been. Let's just say like $300 over the years, and that was just for just using the search engine, you know. And it's not like I don't use Google. If I ever don't find something on Bing, I just switch to Google. So the way I see it is that bought a bunch of stuff. Netflix is ignored for sure. Is it? Huh, okay. Would I suggest cold emailing recruiters? I don't know. I don't. Me personally, I don't see a point, but that means almost nothing because I didn't try it. I got LinkedIn Premium and then found out. Wait a second. All you're really able to do with this is like email 5 people, and then they're going to point you to the job listing anyway. And so I canceled it after like 3 days and never used any of the emails that you get. And I actually want to go deactivate my LinkedIn. I strongly dislike LinkedIn. I think it's not something I want to be on. I was using it for finding a job, and now I can cancel it again. Was references an issue having not worked formally for the last 5 years? Did you use old ones? References didn't really come up in most places. In fact, I don't think at any point in my career I've really been asked to give a reference's phone number necessarily. Now, with all these jobs that I applied for, the big companies, I got referrals to. So perhaps that had something to do with it. And Google did ask, hey, if you know anyone who works there, a friend even, an old coworker, you should give us the name. And so a couple of people through the stream said, hey, look, I watched your stream. I'm happy to give my name. So I did that. But I don't know if they contacted those references. I don't know. So like I said, I'm probably not going to answer this right now. They use Google too. Oh, interesting. So they have their own distribution, I guess. Thank you, YSX. Yeah, I am pleased. I'm very, very happy that the anxiety is lifted, that I feel like I can just kind of freely enjoy the next couple weeks. I was mentioning earlier that there's this big mental barrier for me between what I was doing and what I was going to do. And I just kept thinking, God, I can't slot in something important because what if that gets cut off? And if I slot in something unimportant and then it extends and I'm doing something unimportant for a really long time, well, now I feel like whichever company I accept, that's important. And so knowing that there's an important thing coming up, I can be lazy for as long as I want now and not feel bad. I probably won't be lazy. I will probably do productive things, and I want to wrap up a lot of loose ends that I have, and some of that is going to be very hard work actually. But yeah, I've got some time for that. Super me truck. Hey Tim. Thank you, A5. How'd you rate the difficulty for a DevOps position in these companies? I haven't had one of these companies, so I don't know. And I haven't really interviewed for a DevOps position necessarily. I imagine at these companies, though, it's probably pretty difficult because you're talking about it's not just, well, how would this scale? It's like, how is this going to scale? Because we already know we have 1 million customers or 10 million customers or whatever it is. And so DevOps for something that you know is going to scale or that has to be replicated in different availability zones or regions, that's very different from the potential of having to do that. So yeah, I imagine it's more difficult. Yeah, sounds good, Malky. Adam interviews chat. I wasn't actually thinking of streaming that. Well, I guess I could leave it up to Melky. Although I probably won't stream that, even if they want it. Hey, boy, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Six. Is it true that referrals are required to even like score an opportunity? Uh, I, I, I think the whole interview process is just kind of up in the air at some of these companies. So let me share my experience with Microsoft, which was a very bad experience. So first of all, I've worked for Microsoft for 3.5 years in the past, and I have lots of contacts there. And so I got a referral. A referral led to me talking to a director of engineering which led to me talking to a hiring manager, which led to me realizing it wasn't really a good fit. And so I talked to the recruiter. I sent 3 emails from August, I think 7th, until I think the final one was sent on like August, probably 21st or something like that. There were 3 emails in that time that I sent. All 3 were ignored by this recruiter, like just ignored, not even an answer. And I was pretty much just saying like, hey, okay, that job wasn't a good fit, but are there any other jobs on that same team? And I got nothing back. And I just don't understand that. I really don't. And so I tell my contacts that I have at Microsoft, and they're very incensed by this because, okay, I don't know how to say this without sounding bad. Like Amazon and Google gave me offers, right? And so it's likely then that Microsoft might also have wanted to give me an offer, but didn't even contact me. And so what my contacts at Microsoft say is, hey, here's a candidate who like I know is good and who these other companies now think is good. And you didn't even give him a chance. So what other candidates are you not giving a chance that might lead to the bargaining lowered at Microsoft? So this part about are they even required? I don't think they're required, but I think there's some just sort of luck even in just the application process. And I don't think it should be that way. And I don't know why this happened the way it did. Show us the cake. We're more important. Okay, fine. You're right. You deserve to see this cake. This was a good cake. That was our dessert last night. It was very good. Google forces you to use Linux. No, I don't think you're forced to use Linux at either of these companies. I think both companies are like a Mac and Linux primary workforce kind of thing. Yeah, I'm familiar with this term. I don't know if this particular keyboard has that setup though. And I always wondered, should I try the Ergodox out again? I mean, I still have it. It's sitting in a box over there, but I don't know. I think I don't want to introduce too many variables at once. Like new job, new operating system, new keyboard, new technologies. Thank you, Zachariah. Yeah, I know. This is like I'm at the school bus and you're like, all right, bye, Adam. Did you remember your juice box? On stream advent of code. I'm probably not going to do that. I think now that I've got a job lined up or like mostly lined up, I think I'm going to start to focus on like I said the loose ends that I have and then maybe well actually maybe advent of code could be there, but I'll need to think about it some more. I don't even know how you get access to what docs? Oh yeah, if it was just notes, that's it. But if it's the one that I had open here, this is in the today command. Looking at Better Snap tool, pretty popular. I'll write that down. Yeah. Yeah, when I used a Mac for about a year, I learned about a few different programs and some automation tools that I think were really good. Like iTerm 2, I'm going to go download immediately if I start using a Mac. But I'm sure stuff has changed in the last like 6 years. And then also there were some programs I didn't know about that were probably around then too. How familiar were you with the types of LeetCode problems and algorithms and structures before you started? Before I started, I'd already gone through some of cracking the coding interview about 6 years ago. And I mean, I've been a professional developer for a while. So I'd say I was familiar. I guess let me put it this way. Here were some of the new things that I learned about this time around. I learned about the gray code, which didn't actually come in handy for more than any one question. I learned about a couple of algorithms like the rolling hash algorithms, which were things like Raven Carp and I think KMP is one of those two. I learned about Union Find. I hadn't known about that either. And I learned much more about dynamic programming. So for me, these were kind of new topics this time around. But all of them, I would say, are probably not very common for interviews, especially gray code. Gray code isn't even really an algorithm. It's just a way of counting in binary, such that only one bit changes at a time. I have it written out somewhere. Yeah, here it is. So yeah, I think I was pretty familiar. Although it wasn't at the forefront of my mind at that point. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. and what section in system design under in the notes. If you go to MISC, you'll find system design. Yeah, unfortunately, it's not the easiest for me to directly link to sometimes. Model an iPod Nano 3rd gen ahead of my desk. Yeah, yeah. Find something around you, model it, find out all the problems you run into in that process. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Saboteur. Can also create Python scripts to manipulate them. Yeah, I think that would be cool too. I'd like to get into that some more. I think what's nice is there are a lot of different areas of computing or technology that I'd still like to learn, and there's time to do it. There are opportunities, there are projects. So I don't think I'll ever run out of those things to do. And even if I do, then there's other topics completely like music or like I said, beekeeping or something. I have a lot of interest, not enough time. I think it's better than having too much time and not enough interest. You should probably consider pausing the stream for a couple months because the start of the job will be exhausting. Yeah, yeah. I think that's another consideration to make. Part of it is whatever I settle on, I want to make sure that I can do. And I think there's a way to make the stream pretty low effort. Like this stream is basically nonstop interaction to the point where I'm 16 minutes behind on talking to people. And yet it's still not a lot of effort for me because I'm mostly just sharing things from my notes or from my own head. Whereas if I were doing something like, hey, let's open source Botland, there's probably a lot of considerations there. Thank you, VRTXT. Yeah, I'm really happy too. Right, just having an open box labeled chat. Imagine if they all look like you guys do. You organize your personal life with the precision that you do your work stuff? No, not really. I do have my own notebook here, and there's a saying that I heard a long time ago that I loved. It is mine your life for notes. It's just something someone randomly said during a speech that I heard. And what they were talking about in that case was they were giving a humorous speech and they came up with some of these jokes and they said, look, you just write down a joke when you come up with it. And so I started doing that for a lot of different things in my life, whether it's jokes, whether it's things I thought of buying, whether it's any significant life event. I think that's all great to have. And the way that I think about this too is, I said this during the interview prep and it's much more obvious in a technical perspective, but I kind of have this like sliding window of how much I'm going to remember of technology. And sure, little bits from 4 or 5 years ago will get kept in there, but mostly it's like whatever I did in the last 2 months, I could probably talk about that. And that's why with interview prep, I was trying to slide in for a whole 2 months of I want just interview prep in my mind. I think even for your personal life, though, you will just forget what happened at some point. And so if you ever go back and look at a journal that you might have written, you'd be surprised of like, oh yeah, I forgot all about that. Or someone tells you a story where you're like, oh man, I haven't even thought of that person in 10 years. So I'm not as organized, but I try to keep some notes on that. Yeah. Thank you, Edun. Thank you very much. Yeah, watch Ryman while working. Ryan was like, you should watch somebody on Twitch. You should watch me on Twitch. Let's all watch Ryan on Twitch. Never need to watch streamers while working. Can only do it while gaming or chilling. Yeah, for me, what I found is that if I interact with a streamer, then I can't focus on my own thing anymore. Because I'm always like, what if they're talking to me? Then I've got to pay attention. So if I just lurk in someone's stream, it's a little easier. But then it's also kind of tempting to chat at some point. Next year on the Google stage is the person responsible for a new product. Thank you, Aurelia. You know, it's funny because if that sort of thing happened, God, imagine the coincidence of saying like, oh, I know that person. That's Adam. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen though. I I don't know what level of impact I'd have exactly, but um, yeah, I guess never say never, but I kind of doubt that. The job position isn't too bad to share. Everyone has it on LinkedIn, etc. Yeah, I'll probably talk about it after I've signed something. Thank you, Pervin. Thank you. And what company? The companies are Google and Amazon. So I have not decided yet. And thank you, Ananta. Yeah, I am very happy for sure. I'm glad that this process is coming to a close and that I mean unless I said something like horribly wrong or violating NDA during the stream, which I'm being very careful not to do, then yeah, I just another week or so I should have sign an offer, and another week or so after that, I'll have started the job. And then, as people have been asking about, like, what's going to happen to the stream, it will die down quite a lot, if not completely. And I will keep everyone posted via Discord. So if you haven't already joined, do make sure to join. Oh, why did I type that like that? Have you considered FIRE? Basically saving tons and retire early. What's that stand for again? Financially independent, retire early? Yeah, kinda. For me, I think any retirement has to have some sense of fulfillment, and people get fulfillment from different things. They have kids, they go travel, they have a job, they volunteer their time, any number of things, right? For me, I think what makes the most sense along the lines of fulfillment is either some form of helping people, which with what I've been specializing in would probably be some sort of tech helping people. That's kind of what I mean. Not that I have anything against other kinds of volunteering, or it would be some kind of like making a business. And I don't know. This stuff will probably shift over the years. Especially, I talked about ego. I'm still trying to keep that in check, and I want to make sure that that doesn't influence my decisions too much. What do I dislike about LinkedIn? Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Hamburger Menu. What I dislike about LinkedIn, I think I don't tend to like social networks that are the sort of classic social network structure. So things like Facebook, things like kind of Instagram, LinkedIn. I just don't use any of these except for very narrow cases. So Facebook I do use for messaging, and I also use for running ads for Botland and AdamLearn. LinkedIn I used for basically just the job hunt time. But in general, I look at I look at all of these social networks as kind of being you're seeing a slice of humanity that is not representative of humanity. And so generally on things like Facebook and Instagram, you're seeing the very positive side of things for people. Generally on LinkedIn, you're seeing all the like, oh, pat myself on the back for that accomplishment kind of things. I don't like either of those. So I generally try to shy away from that. I also, yeah, I don't like it. They do background checks that don't require references. I see. That must be how that happens. Based on my experience, here's what you do. Move in your truck, drive 2,400 miles, meet a girl online, move in with her, get her first job by her brother. That's a pretty good plan. I think you should make a YouTube video about this. How I got my first job. And then the first day on that job. Hey Tech. And hey Strike. Yeah, I got the offers. I'm glad. Process is coming to a close. Used by news outlets to specify the big players supposed to get state levels of power. I see. Got it. Thank you, Levinson. And what are the roles you got offers for? Check the today command. It'll go into a little more detail, but basically at Amazon it's workspaces, at Google, I don't know. So, and I'll share more when I know about it. Got any advice for a junior in CS? General advice, I guess. I think my general advice to most new people is learn and understand and don't be afraid to ask questions. So what I think is important in programming at some point is self-sufficiency. So let's say you want to know how to sort an array in Python, you search for that. And that's something you learn that you can search for and that within 10 seconds you have your answer. You don't need to involve anybody else. Great, awesome. But then a skill you'll need is when is it not that kind of question? When is it a question that involved me going down a 3 hour long rabbit hole that got me nothing in the end other than just literally the answer to my question that I could have gotten by just asking someone and bypassing that entire process. So my advice is mostly around this. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I would say if you while you're starting, like err on the side of asking too many questions almost and having people tell you like you really should be a little more independent rather than you trying to be more independent and then feeling paralyzed like, oh God, now I don't have the resources to get help. So I think that's my biggest piece of advice. And remember that especially in CS, like you might be used to the way the way I look at schooling is you start at roughly 5 and you go until roughly 18 and you'll have done what K through 12 in the US. So whatever that equates to in your country is it's probably similar. Then typically from something like this, it's college for some people or you pass by that. 5 to 18 at that point is the majority, the vast majority of your life. You've been spent doing schooling that was pretty much forced on you. When you finally, if you choose to go to college, you might have the same mindset of like, it's just school. I'm just going to do what I kept doing. But this is the point where I think actually learning what you're being taught is more important. If you're in history class in ninth grade or something and you don't pay attention, I don't know, maybe it impacts your life a little bit. But if you don't pay attention to any part of what your formal education is, then at least in the US, you're wasting tons of money. And other places, you're wasting at least your time. So, yeah, that's why I think this is my biggest piece of advice. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Sophia. Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, any suggestions for beginners? It sounds like if you're talking about cracking the coding interview that you're talking about for interview prep, in which case most of my advice is in these couple of notes. So if you look at the notes command and then go down to MISC, you'll find them. And I think it's that same general concept of make sure you're learning, but also make sure you got some momentum. So for cracking a coding interview, and I'm going to have to write this down at some point. Let me write this. Studying, make sure to keep momentum. Do an easy problem after failing at a medium or hard problem. Yeah, maintaining that balance is pretty important. Just makes it a bit more difficult to get your foot in the door. Yeah, like I said, some of these big companies, it's like you just don't know what's going on inside. You can get a referral and it might mean nothing. You might just apply on a whim one day and you get through and just like who knows what's happening. Feels like recruiting's not optimized for compassion or recognize job seekers' mental health. Yeah, I think if you talk about recruiting in general, it's a little bit hard to do because recruiting for small companies is definitely different from recruiting for these big companies. For the big companies, I want to know the number on this, and I think someone has shared this in the past. They get a lot of people applying. And so when you have so many people applying and you say, well, let's just plot people on a bell curve, that means we can take the 99th percentile and have more than enough people still, let's say. That's pretty crazy. So, and I don't know if it's exactly 99th percentile. Maybe they take everyone in the 90th percentile and higher. Again, I don't know what the numbers work out to be, but that's why I think companies are going to optimize for how do we get the workers we need and pay them a reasonable rate. And yeah. And it's tough because working for the last 5 years for the startup, I had to hire people from time to time. I mean, it was contractor roles, right? I don't have the time to go interview 50 candidates. I don't have those resources. That's 50 candidates worth of time that I'm not coding for, or not doing something important. So that process did end up being very different. And yeah, it was mostly like, can you mostly do this job? In fact, I guess the question is, did I reject anybody? I guess there was shopping around. It wasn't so much rejection. Like at one point, I needed a voice actor for the Botland trailer, and I looked at 2, 3 people, and the person I settled on, I was pretty happy with. Which, by the way, if anyone's curious about that, there's the Botland credits command, and there's the credits command for Adam Learns. If you're curious who I worked with, or you want to hire them too, just apply to the bank for a software engineering position. Had a rejection by 4 p.m. It's pretty fast. It does make you wonder why though. Why do I look familiar? I'm not sure why. Maybe you're not new to the channel. Let's find out. Nope, you're new to the channel. Then I don't know. I love it. This is a 6-figure cake right there. Thank you, Naiva. And thank you too, Ryan, excuse me. 20 minutes, you're going to use the comments about cake. You're so over that by now. Not over that cake. It's pretty good. You're welcome, Glasgow. Found a typing game. Help me use my error docs. Was it Typing of the Dead? Is that what it's called? Because typing English words on the error docs was totally fine. It was a problem with hitting Control, Shift, Alt, and Windows key. And what rules I get? The today command kind of talks about it. Amazon and Google, and it's unknown which team at Google right now. And so just FYI, Lede, I don't know if you can see this in your chat client, but Tech has a badge next to the wrench next to their name, which means that they're staff, which means that they're Twitch staff, and Twitch reports to Amazon. So Anyone who you see with this is working for Amazon or Twitch. Switching to Linux from the recommendation of staying with Windows or staying with Windows. This was based on the note of a friend of mine. I'm very likely going to switch from Windows to something. I'm just not sure what. And thank you, Clark. I appreciate it. Yeah, dynamic programming is very hard to do in an interview. I wrote a bunch of notes specifically on dynamic programming, and I spent somewhere between like 8 and 16 hours on this, on just dynamic programming, and I have a very good academic understanding of it. But translating that to 30 minutes of time during an interview, I am not very good at that. So yeah, you guys have all my notes on that stuff too. And I copied some pictures from these lectures. These lectures are amazing. This professor is amazing. I think he's incredibly good. And yeah, check those things out. Thank you, Varun. Yeah. Thank you too, Glad. I think keeping up with the stream to a point will maintain a healthy work-life balance. It'll prevent burnout. Yeah, I still don't know what the content's going to be, and I think I'll find out pretty quickly if the stream is helping or hurting. Especially because, just to give everyone an idea, if you hadn't heard earlier, the level I was talking about for involvement with the stream was like a 2-3 hours per week kind of involvement. I was not talking about like, oh, I'll stream for 2 hours per night. No, no, it's like 2-3 hours per week. I've not made a decision yet, but thank you, Matt. Yeah. Someone show you the algorithm section is in the notes. Unable to find any algorithms. That's under MISC and then interview prep. And you probably won't find too many algorithms in here specifically. Like I talk about some of them, like the Floyd's tortoise and hare algorithm about finding cycles in a linked list. And I talk about some other ones, but in general, they're in here. And within this note, I think they're mostly going to be in the details section. So that's about it. Also, hey, AMT, and thank you. I'm gonna rebrand the company if I work there to Adam Zahn. That'll show up. Thank you, Squid Fry. Which side am I leaning toward this? So, am I leaning toward one? Yes. Can you probably guess from what I've said in the past? Yes. But will I explicitly share that now? No. Thank you too, Privet. And thank you, Vatzel. I used Indeed for my serious job search, and it seemed to work very well. Easy to find employers. Yeah, I ended up posting all the links that I have. So anyone who does look at the today command, at the very bottom of this are all the resources that I used when I was looking for a lot of different jobs here. And I just pasted those in. So some of these are pretty nice, some are not so great, and some are kind of up in the air that I didn't get to try. Like TripleByte, I read a bunch of things about it. I didn't actually get to try it. You apparently take a 2-hour coding interview with them so that you don't have to take very long coding interviews with other people. But to me, that didn't seem worth it, and I read some things on Reddit about it. Let me put this over, actually. Thank you, Tritus. And Twitter, I'm not sure what you were asking about, Newlax. If you're asking about what is my Twitter, because unfortunately I'm very delayed on chat. I'm 11 minutes behind, so I don't remember what the context was there. And thank you, Big Jam. Thank you. You'll get in charge of YouTube API team. Then I can be the one to reject your emails. Thank you, Mara. Oh no, I'm sorry to hear that, Dr. Mara. I know you said they hadn't gotten back to you in 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, that is a shame. Wonder. Sorry to hear that. Thank you, A-Dubs. What instrument do I play? I play piano, and I'd say that's it. I dabbled a little bit for some other things, but I wouldn't say I play them. And so that not really Botland. There's a playlist here. If you were curious at all, I guess I'll link this in the chat. Some of these have some piano videos. And how do we get to just the playlist? There we go. Yeah. So there are some streams that I did. There was a couple of composition or transcription streams. Yeah, I made this very clear that I was not very good at what I was doing. And then I've got some on my personal YouTube channel. You search for Adam13531. These are from a long time ago. Yeah, it's about 5 videos. No, 6, 7, 7, 7-ish. Yeah. 23 years? So you must be doing a PhD, I guess? Ah, yeah, working on a PhD. Yep, yep, yep. Yeah, very tired. Say all of the PhD students by the end of their time. Is there a link to the group of odds on YouTube for the job hunt and prep? Yeah, there is. Let me make a command out of that. I'll write myself a note. Make a command out of job hunt YouTube videos. And I'll also write a note to include this in here. Link to VODs of my prep. But for now, yeah, if you go to my YouTube channel and go to playlists, it is this one. So I'm linking these in. I'm not tagging people in the chat messages. So Stoic, that one was for you, the newest one I just typed in. I am 9 minutes behind on chat. You think a degree in, for example, system engineering is needed for coding? No, I don't think it's needed for coding. I think degrees at this point are mostly to overcome interview bias, where someone interviewing you thinks, I got a degree, so this person should have a degree. I think that's the biggest reason. Actually, I don't think that's the biggest reason. I think the biggest reason to get a degree is if you remember how I started the first sentence. Anyway, the biggest reason to get a degree is if you need that motivation structure. So some people can go and use all the free resources on the internet and learn everything they need to learn and have a pretty solid understanding. And other people will find it very hard to get into a pattern that allows that to happen. And that's where school can be really good and getting a degree, because it lays out here are the steps, here are the courses you can take if you want some flexibility, and here's what we're going to teach, and here are all the projects and everything. And having that structure can be really helpful too. So do I think it's needed? No. Do I think it's helpful for some people and for overcoming some biases? Thank you, Snay. Yeah, the emotes are all gone. No more subs on this channel. I think no one should have the subscriber badge, right? Except for my bot. Yeah. Thank you, Simple. Yeah, I'm very happy about this. How'd you go about getting a job in the IT or security aspect of CS? I don't have much experience with this, despite that actually my Microsoft job was in security, but that was just happenstance. I am not sure. I think you just go through the typical application process. Alternatively, you find some massive bug worth like a $20,000 bounty and just be like, just give me a job. That's fine. Am I pitching this to get a bigger cake? You mean in the lava cake I shared? Or are we talking about this? Must be nice to know from self-employment, knowing you'll have steady income. Yeah, thank you, root user. Yeah, it's definitely nice to know that there's no more anxiety about this, that there will be job security, that yeah, I'll have a steady income and everything. There's also some bittersweet parts. I will miss streaming. I'll miss having the control over everything, the creativity, being able to direct what I was doing. I think it was really nice. Where are all the notes? Just type the notes command. And welcome. All right, I think I'm almost caught up. I'm only like 6, 7 minutes behind now. Thank you, Emelos. And thank you too, Brandon. Admin's on. Thank you, Craze. Frowned upon working more than 40 hours per week. Yeah. I think this is really important to find out before you go work for a place if they're going to have a healthy work-life balance. And I think having a lead who doesn't push you to work more or doesn't give you that pressure, I think is important, because it does involve having enough people in the management chain on board. Otherwise, I mean, if your lead is setting deadlines where you just couldn't possibly meet them, then you have a problem one hop above you. Take care, Varun. Good night, and thanks again. Am I allowed to share what field? I actually don't have the answer to that for either company. I think it would be backend if it were AWS, and I would likely steer toward backend even at Google, but I don't know for sure yet. And thank you, Steve Picasso. Just want to say you shouldn't worry about potentially going out on your own again. I myself did it over 2 years ago, and I'm well aware of the challenges, but as your career goes, you gain many new business contacts. Yeah. And this is why I was saying as advice earlier that I think as long as you're learning from what you've done in the past, that you will have a better shot at doing it in the future. So I've learned a bunch over the last 5 years. I made a lot of mistakes for sure. And I talk a lot about those in many different parts. For anyone who's curious about what I think the mistakes with Botland were, check out the postmortem command. It's the blog post that I have. And this is a very long blog post. Some people like reading these just for the, I don't know, like vicarious failing homes. But yeah, so this talks about the history from the very beginning of making the game to what I think went poorly, to what went well, to Twitch, to launching, everything. And so I hope I learned from those and I hope I can apply these things. And that's what I think will be interesting about not only this next step, but if I ever get back to startups. Is the dynamic programming section private? Let me see where that is. No, it's not private. It's in the coding section. By the way, I think you guys should be able to search for this stuff. I'm not positive that it works through the web interface though. Let me try it. Because otherwise, I don't know how I'm doing anything about that. So if you click the find button and then search for dynamic programming, I think it'll show up, but I think you have to click section. I think that's why. Or maybe page. Oh my god, this is just terrible. For real? This doesn't come up with anything? Isn't the page called dynamic programming? How could you have a better search than that? If I search for dynamic. Is this seriously coming up with nothing? It just takes a very long time. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, sorry, this is terrible. Or, oh, maybe it has to load them all before it can search. Oh, that's really bad. If that's the case, now I'm guessing searching will show me. Dynamic programming page. It still doesn't. Oh, there it is. Yeah, that's not great. That must be why I'm getting all those questions. Have I used Linux? Yeah. So I've used Linux. I have it on my laptop as actually maybe my only operating system now. I have it as a dual boot setup on this computer. I used it for pretty much all my VMs, but I don't think I've ever really used it for a primary driver for longer than about a month or two at a time. And so I I can use Linux, but the way that I use Windows is like very heavily customized to the point where I want to do that same thing for Linux. I shouldn't say very heavily customized because I just use a lot of hotkeys and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how going to Toastmasters has helped you? Communication will never not be a thing. The mode of communication can change, but you'll almost always certainly you're going to talk to people. And getting better at that, I think, is very important. There's some amount of awareness that'll help, and then some amount of just putting yourself out there. And chances are, as you grow in any career, you'll get an opportunity to present, and you should do those presentations well. It's my opinion that if you're going to present to a bunch of people, that you shouldn't waste their time. And I saw enough terrible presentations in college where I thought, I will not be this way. And so I try to learn from that. And remember, in everyday conversation, while communication does matter, there's only so much you can do. So it's like I'll start thoughts and then just completely back out of a sentence. That still happens, but I'm aware of it. Android developer, no real job experience, built and published some apps. Someone who hasn't had any experience, would you recommend putting a lot of time into data structure and algorithms, or is that something that juniors do not get asked much about? This all depends on the company. And so working for one of the big companies, if you want to work for, let's say, Google, you will likely still get asked those questions. Not to exactly the same depth as if you had a lot of experience, but you'll still be asked those questions. But this is something where I think you should probably ask people who are in the same position as you or very slightly above the position of you to ask where they ask those questions. Because for pretty much all the interviews that I had done through these formal settings, yeah, there were data structures and algorithm questions. Thank you, sad fella. Yeah. You think someone without a university degree but self-taught and passionate can land a job at a FAANG company? Yes, 100% for sure, yes. Yeah, in fact, I think the bias is probably less at the FAANG companies for degrees than at smaller companies, and that might be somewhat paradoxical to people. But I think it's at, well, I don't know, I guess it kind of depends. There's one thing that I think will be kind of off limits, which is some of these research jobs at big companies. Those are typically for master's degrees and PhD holders. Thank you, Jelly Jar. Yeah, I got them both. Now, how do you choose which one to go for? I'm going to have some conversations over the next week to figure out what the jobs are all about. and that'll help me decide. What happened to my subscribers? I turned off the subscription button. So yeah, what TS LinkedIn? How many vacation days will you probably get? I don't know. I If I just had to venture a guess, I would think it would start at 3 weeks, which is really honestly not great for companies in the US. But yeah, that's my guess. Since when did I start searching for a job? So the official job prep stream that I started, the first one I believe was June 26th. And as of August 17th was the Google interview. So it was just under about 2 months from prep to the interview. And then yesterday I got the results. Well, I got the results from Google. Technically I had the results on Thursday from Amazon. So that was a week ago. But I didn't share that with you guys because I want to share them both at the same time. Yeah, I probably will still stream every here and there. And this is where I was saying, guys, if you want to ever watch any of those things, if you want to find out about new blog posts or anything, do join Discord. And Newlax, I was responding to Twitter. I don't know what you were looking for exactly. So maybe that wasn't what you were looking for. I don't know. Yeah. Well, thank you, King Dara. And you left your job to build your own business? Yeah, the one in 2015 I did. So 2015 is when I started my business. And I had to quit my job to do that. Yeah. Who got you to stream in the first place? This is actually kind of bad for an answer, but it was ego. I'll explain in a sec. So honestly, what got me into streaming is I was watching someone who stopped being a streamer a long time ago. So I'm not going to share a name anyway, but I thought they did a really bad job at streaming, and I thought I could do better than they could, and that's honestly what motivated me. That was it. Then it was also, once I had it, I had some goals, and it was accountability and marketing from the stream. Excuse me. And both of those goals were met by streaming. But yeah, ego's what got me to stream in the first place. Hey, Calic Creation. How's it going? Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to hear that. Yeah. Sorry about that. So I didn't realize what the experience was like, but yeah, that is a pretty sucky experience. So yeah, it's in the MISC folder. And thank you, Lumi. Take care, Arcool. Thank you too. Yeah, dropping lots of frames. I know it's at 7600 and 6 months experience for starting here. Yeah, and that's why I was saying I think FANG companies would be less likely to discriminate based on degrees, but I think some small companies would probably think, well, all we know is what's worked for us, and what's worked for us is we hired a bunch of people with degrees, so let's keep hiring people with degrees. Doesn't matter what job you pick, you'll still end up a code monkey. I think that's likely what will happen is the majority of the job will be code, but I think that what scope you have and what impact you have will also differ. And I don't necessarily think being a code monkey, so to speak, is a problem. I think it can be for some people, for sure. It's always the interviews you think you did poorly on that you usually get, at least my experience. So my experience has typically been that if I come out of the interview thinking that went poorly, that I do not have the job from it. And so I know I was rating myself on how I thought I did in the interviews, and fortunately I don't have this open anymore. Let me go open it really fast. Yeah, the scores that I gave myself for the companies and the interviews we're here. So I'll put these on the screen and then just close this. And which level? I am not going to show that until I actually accept a job. And I'll talk about it. Sorry about that. Yeah, I think the stream will certainly die down, if not outright die. I doubt I will let everything totally fall by the wayside. So something I've been talking about is maybe it's better for me to do recorded content and not live streamed content. What I feel is that live stream content is nice for having a set schedule that is more often than like once a week. But if it's only going to be once a week, YouTube content will live for longer. And so maybe that's an easier way. Because imagine, I mean, the audience that I've built up here on Twitch is used to watching at this point in the mornings of Pacific time. So if you're in Europe, it's like pretty good time to watch. And it's weekdays. And so maybe you incorporate this into your work schedule too. If I switch to Saturday at 3 p.m. my time, how many people are going to have an overlap with that? And that's why I think live streaming probably doesn't really make sense anymore. And it doesn't mean that I can't upload those videos to YouTube afterward. But typically, I think it's nice to edit the videos down. And then if I'm going to edit them down anyway, why not just work with that from the start? I don't know. That was a close friend of mine, and I'm trying to work on that. Yeah, I mean that was my motivation. I am being honest with you guys. I thought that guy did a bad job. Be a good evangelist. Thank you, Jay. Yeah, I don't think I'll be in an evangelist role, but that was one of the things I was wondering about is should I ever try to pursue that? But I think I'd rather do yeah, I think I'd rather just do development, I think. Thank you, Rob. Do I know what I'll be doing? No, not yet. No. Yeah. The today command talks a little bit about it, so it's but the general answer is no, I don't know yet. Been lurking in your chat for a while. Also got a new job off for a couple days I took. Nice, congratulations. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to hear it, and thank you too. Hey, Kat. Thank you. And hey, Leftist. I'm playing around with auto hotkey, looking for more ideas to use it for. Do you have any of your scripts or ideas? Yeah, some of the scripts are on here. And in general, I think I use it for a lot of very specific things. So for example, let me show you. I don't know if I've ever shown you guys this. Okay, so this is a bad time to show you because I'm dropping a bunch of frames. But if we wait a second. So one of the things that I use it for, I have this mouse. And if I press a button, I don't know if this is going to show up. If I press a button, it changes the mode. So you can see the lights are changing on the side, maybe, I don't know. I have a script that I wrote to do that same thing so I wouldn't have to press a button. So when I do this and I just move my hands off the mouse, it should pop this up. There it goes. Yeah. So it pops this up and it picks the mode for me. And I can set this to 0 now and it'll pick a different mode for me. And that's something else I use auto hotkey for. Like there are all these little scenarios that no one probably ever really has, but that you can come up with a way to do. And that's how I did this. So yeah, I can share things like that if you ever want. But in general, I think it's like, what's something you find yourself doing so much on your computer that you want a script for it? So another thing that I made that used to be an auto hotkey that now isn't is set microphone volume. I don't know what it is about Windows, and there's probably a way to stop this, but every program is like, oh, you got a microphone? I'm going to set this volume to max. It's like, well, why does that happen? So I wrote a script to set it back to what is the acceptable level that will not destroy people's ears. And that used to be auto hotkey, but now it's not. Now it's a Node.js script. But in general, if you're all about automation and everything, this is one of the few times I will actually plug something that I've done. This course has helped a lot of people so far, the development efficiency course. It has a lot of different techniques, and almost everyone who I've talked to about this has said that they've gotten something from it. And I don't know why this is spinning like that. We're just going to close that. Hopefully everything's fine. Oh, I did miss your message? Oh no, I saw your message. Sorry, I thought it was targeted at other people because I didn't see my name in it. And okay, yeah. Do I think getting a degree only to get an internship is a bad idea? Yes, I do. Thank you, Leptis. You're going to pivot on platforms then? It's not so much pivoting on platforms as it is pivoting on medium. So Twitch does not let you upload recorded videos, or if it does, because I think it might have at one point. Yeah, I think it does. Anyway, it's not made for pre-recorded videos. That's not what people go to Twitch for. So if I were to upload videos here, like there's no real audience. There's not a lot of people searching for those sorts of things. So that's what I mean more. It's not like I have a problem with Twitch, and that's not why I turned off my sub button or anything. you made Botland. That means you're a developer. Why don't you make Twitch extensions for us? And yeah, so that guy was probably a developer evangelist. Will it work because you love interacting with chat? I think it will. I think this is where I need to figure out what my goals are with making the content. Because if it's truly just to help people, I think the edited content will do a better job than the live stream. And I can interact with chat through Discord. Not in a live way, but I can still talk to people. Thank you, Ivory. Yeah, the stream is literally dying. I know. Drop frame. Oh, wow. It must have restarted, actually. Yeah, stream died. Yep. Okay. I'll read through chat quickly because I don't think my other responses probably even made it through. Would it be better to accept a decent job offer and stop pursuing my degree, or turn down the job and finish my degree? So I will say, yeah, lots of frames dropped. You think cover letters are necessary? What advice would you give? So ask me these couple of questions. Ask me on Discord. Stream is kind of dying. I'm gonna turn off the stream, I think. Hey Ramy. Yeah. I've dropped what 77% of the frames here. This is so bad that I've got to end this. So I'll probably just turn off the stream and let it auto host somebody. Yeah, hopefully it picks somebody. Yeah, I'm gonna get going. Sorry, everybody. I'll answer the remaining questions through Discord. But yeah, this is too bad. So thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thanks for celebrating with me. And I'm sorry that the stream quality didn't really hold up. But yeah, take care, everybody. I'll probably be back online tomorrow.